All right, we are back in studio and we are getting the word that the proceedings there are beginning in Parliament, but we will be told when everything starts. But before that, we were speaking about health, and I just want us to wrap up that very important conversation. And I suppose, Mr. Spear, is if there is an incremental allocation this year, as you project, after that 100 million increment last financial year, the question there is, what do we expect the Dilangeni to go to first in that allocation? But also, secondly, the most important question, how soon should the ordinary Eswati expect to enjoy the improvement, to feel it?
All right. So most immediate, Mr. Nxumalo, is the HIV. We've seen a bit of a removal of that funding.
I'm sorry, we have to end our conversation here and just cross over straight to Parliament where the proceedings have started. We will be back in the studio.
Bukeli solo sikhona khona indasika lobamba khona eParliament lapho khona sesicalile siyababona noma cishe bonkana bahlonishwa sebangekhathi endlini sebesofikile nayo indvuna yetemafa njengoba nibonile sike sakhulumisana nayo yasitshela kafishane ukuthi elangeni lanamuhla kude lokungakanani lesekungagucuka futhi ke yona ikhonile nokuthi iphumule ikhonile nokuthi ingabe ngumuntu lotatatelako ngoba seyicishe sewujwayele lo msebenzi nawungakhumbula kahle mbukeli indvuna icale Parliament yelishumi nakunye solo indvuna yetemafa ayicali lokuthi iwende lo msebenzi lona emlangeni nawe ukwakhulumisile labanye ngabe bathitheni
sibakhulumisile mavimbela ikakhulu lisekela la governor nalo lesicathathele nje ukuthi vele livela kangwane nalicathaniswa nalamanye emave ikakhulu kulesifundza lesisaka Sadak cishe lenta kahle kakhulu ehlangothini lekwaba imali ngoba livele yakhona lokuprioritize mhlawumbe ke siyathi ke emavimbela ukuthi vele le budget lena itawuphindze futhi sinikete isithombe siyathi ukuthi ngomnyaka lobalekile welivela kangwane lapho khona ingwenyama ihlanganisa iminyaka lengu40 isesihlalweni kepha ke nyalo mavimbela sivele sithathe intsambo sifake yena umbukeli ngekhathi
lesicela ukuthi after sasicede umsebenzi wanamuhla ungathi sonke singabe sesivela khona kubede nje lo hambako nasesicedzile siya kule stretch tent kune network luncheon sitawube sisinekha nje bese siphinde siyaxoxisana nabo bonke lesiba invitele namalungu eParliament iParliament isebenza indzaba ye taking Parliament to the people so lokuthi sisinekhe nje kanye nje bese siyaxoxa siyacela ukuthi sende njalo nasiphuma nje siye kule stretch tent where we will then snack and then engage sixoxisana nje sidla sibe sixoxa on the other side sicela ukuthi kwendeke kanjalo kwesihlanu kukhumbuta nje bahlonishwa labangaphumelelanga noma ke labe bangekho ngaleli langa sihleti kuthandi nangikhumbula kahle ukuthi bajike office la speaker badothola lawo ma gifts lebese sivumelene ngawo labawathola labanye basengakawathathi longazange ayithole siyacela avele bahlonishwe kwesine sicela ukukhumbuta bo bahlonishwa lababomake kokuthi nabo bangavela kuneli hiya labo bayadike ukuthi se live selibheke ebuhleni khona ke lihiya lelilungiselwe lo msebenzi wabo bangavela ke nebahlonishwa lababomake kutothola lelo lihiya laba thuna cha abalitholi labomake leli lilungiselwe nje bomake sasitawubuye sibabukela labathuna ngoba leli lingale libhaliwe vele nalokuthi libhalwe labomake manje nangu umlumthuna asagacela ihiya lelibhalwe make sitawubona kodwa ukuthi singathi sakusebenza yini ukuthi nani nilithole kodwa ke lisuke leligama lelibhalwe labomake sitawubukisana bahlonishwa sekungaba kukhumbuta nje kuma invited guest ethu lapha eTulu ngokuthi eParliament ke tincingo atikavumeleki ukuthi tikhale therefore nangabe ungenda siciniseko nje just double check ukuthi ucingo lwakho luku silence or nangabe ubathi uyakuchafata ukhona kahle ukufaka ku silence uvele nje switch off lungabe seluyakhala lapho etulo siyacela kunikhumbuta ma guest ethu etulo. Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk.
Honourable members, the Eswatini House of Assembly order paper number 2 on the Friday of 27 February 2026. There is an addendum to the order paper. We have a tabling of a report, the report of the Finance Committee on deliberations with the Honourable Minister for Finance on the appropriations for 2025 to 2026 and 2026 to 2027 financial years. The report is going to be tabled by the Honourable Mawik T. Kumalo.
Mr. Clerk, umhlonishwa wakalobamba lomtsala.
Mconso Tinguruma angibonge. Ngithunywa licommittee Mr. Speaker le finance bengicela ukuthi singethule le report yekusebenta indzaba ye-budget sibambisene nenduna yetiko letemafa Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Akaqhubeke umhlonishwa ethule i-report. Sibonga kakhulu umhlonishwa wakalobamba lomtsala, Mr. Clerk.
Honourable members, on the main order paper, we have tabling of reports. The first report to be tabled is the budget speech. The second one is the budget estimates book for 1st April 2026 to the 31st of March 2029. The third report to be tabled is the Treasurer Annual Report for the financial year ending the 31st of March 2025. The fourth one is the Eswatini Revenue Services Report for the financial year ended 31st March of 2025. The fifth one is the Establishment Register for the financial year ended 31st March 2026 to 2027. The sixth one is the Financial Audit Report on the Consolidated Government Accounts of the Kingdom of Eswatini for the financial year ended 1st March 2025. All these reports are going to be tabled by the Honourable Minister for Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Minister for Finance.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, with your permission to leave the House, may I please table the budget speech for 2026, the budget estimates book from the 1st of April 2026 to the 31st of March 2029, the Treasury Annual Report for the financial year ending 31st of March 2025, the Eswatini Revenue Services Report for the financial year ended 31st of March 2025, the Establishment Register for the financial year ended 31st of March 2026 to 2027, and the Financial Audit Report on the Consolidated Government Accounts of the Kingdom of Eswatini for the financial year 1st of March 2025.
Thank you very much, Minister. Please go ahead and table the reports as read. Siyabonga kakhulu Minister, angathi bakuhleka ngoba vele singawe namuhla. Siyabonga nduna yembuso. Mr. Clerk.
Honourable members, on page 2 of the order paper, we have tabling of bills. The first bill to be tabled is the Appropriation Bill 2026, Bill number 1 of 2026. The second one is the Supplementary Bill 2026, Bill number 2 of 2026. All these bills are going to be tabled by the Honourable Minister for Finance.
Sibonga Mr. Clerk, nduna yehloniphekile yetemafa.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, with your permission, I'll leave the House. May I please table the Appropriation Bill 2026, Bill number 1 of 2026, and the Supplementary Bill 2026, Bill number 2 of 2026. And Honourable Speaker, they both come with certificates of urgency.
Thank you, Minister. Please go ahead, Minister, and table the bills. Sibonge nduna ehloniphekile eTemafa, Mr. Clerk.
Honourable members, the next item on the order paper, we have a government bill, the Appropriation Bill 2026, Bill number 1 of 2026, first reading, presented with a certificate of urgency by the Honourable Minister for Finance.
Sibonge, Mr. Clerk, nduna ehloniphekile eTemafa, when is the second reading?
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. With your permission, leave the House. May it please be forthwith.
Sibonge nduna ehloniphekile bahlonishwa, it has been moved that the second reading be forthwith. Labavumelana naloko abathi aye. Labangavumi bathi nay. The ayes have it and the ayes have it. Mr. Clerk.
The Appropriation Bill 2026, Bill number 1 of 2026, second reading by the Honourable Minister for Finance.
Asibonge Mr. Clerk, induna ehloniphekile yeTemafa sengiso lesikhathi induna la kufanele khona uchubeke nemsebenzi wakho webudget seyingachubeka induna.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's my singular honour and profound responsibility to stand before this August House to present the national budget estimates for the 2026-2027 financial year at this third session of the 12th Parliament of the Kingdom of Eswatini. I rise this morning deeply conscious of the times that we live in. Across the world, nations are navigating uncertainty, geopolitical tensions are redefining alliances, global trade is being reshaped, supply chains remain fragile, and economic nationalism is testing long-standing international arrangements. What once appeared predictable is now fluid. What once seemed stable is now contested. Mr. Speaker, in the midst of the shifting global landscape, the Kingdom of Eswatini stands firm, anchored in faith, guided by wise leadership, and strengthened by unity. Mr. Speaker, I give all thanks and glory to our Heavenly Father. We thank Him for the spirit of unity that prevails over our nation. This year, we are guided by the principle of agape, the highest form of love, which seeks the well-being of others above oneself. As the word reminds us in 1 John 3:18, dear children, let not love with words and speech, but with actions and in truth. This budget is designed to be that action. It is a testament of our commitment to love and serve every Liswati in truth. The theme this year of our speech is agape love, love in action for economic transformation. Agape love is not sentiment, it's not passive, it is sacrificial, it is disciplined, it's responsible. It's the kind of love that chooses the greater good over personal comfort. It's the love that builds institutions, strengthens families, pays taxes honestly, fights corruption, and serves the nation faithfully. Mr. Speaker, a budget is more than numbers. It's a moral contract. It reveals what we value. It reflects who we choose to protect. It determines the future that we are building. This year's budget is built on agape love. Love for the child in the rural classroom. Love for the unemployed seeking opportunity. Love for the farmer battling climate shocks. Love for the worker who rises before dawn. Love for the elderly citizen who depends on dignity, and love for future generations who will inherit the consequences of our fiscal decisions. His Majesty the King has consistently called upon us to build a nation of unity, discipline and integrity. During the opening of Parliament, His Majesty has reminded us that service delivery must improve, corruption must be uprooted, medicines must be supplied, and the youth must be empowered. This budget responds directly to that call. Mr. Speaker, agape love also demands accountability and good stewardship. We cannot seek to love while tolerating waste. We cannot speak of prosperity while enabling corruption. We cannot speak of progress while avoiding discipline. Mr. Speaker, never before in recent history has the global order appeared so uncertain. Protectionism is rising. Major economies are reprioritizing domestic interests. Aid flows are being reduced. Major trade agreements are under strain. Climate shocks are intensifying. Small open economies like ours cannot control these global forces, but we can control our response. Our response is this: We'll strengthen domestic revenue mobilization. We'll protect fiscal sustainability. We will invest deliberately in growth. We will accelerate reforms and we'll build resilience. While others retreat inwards, Eswatini moves forward with clarity and courage. We are building dams and irrigation schemes. We are building digital systems and financial transparency. We are building energy independence. We are building factory shells and manufacturing capacity. We are building institutions that will outlive us. We are building a culture of accountability. Mr. Speaker, over the last several years, we prioritized stabilization, strengthening reserves, improving debt management, upgrading our credit rating, firming up tax administration, and restoring investor confidence. That foundation is now bearing fruit. This budget marks a transition from stability to acceleration. It's a pro-growth, pro-discipline, pro-investment budget. We are increasing capital expenditure because we understand that growth is not accidental, it is constructed. Infrastructure, energy security, water security, digital systems, and industrial capacity are not expenses. These are investments in national productivity. But growth without discipline makes us fragile. Therefore, while we invest boldly, we must remain fiscally prudent. Agape loves demand that we do not burden our children with reckless debt. Mr. Speaker, one of the most significant institutional reforms undertaken by government in recent years is the successful implementation of the first release of the Integrated Financial Management System, referring to IFMIS. For the first time, ministries and departments utilized a fully integrated digital platform for planning and budgeting. This reform marks a decisive shift towards program-based budgeting, enhanced fiscal discipline, real-time expenditure monitoring, and strengthened accountability. The system reduces opportunity for waste and irregular expenditure, it improves transparency, and aligns public spending directly with the National Development Plan and the Programme of Action. UMSEBE is not merely a technical upgrade, it's a structural reform that will permanently improve how government manages public resources. Mr. Speaker, after years of planning, construction, and strategic investment, the International Conference Centre will be officially opened on the 25th of April 2026 and opened by His Majesty the King. This milestone represents far more than the completion of infrastructure. It symbolizes Eswatini's ambition to position itself as a premium regional destination for conferences, trade expos, and international events. Its completion reflects government's long-term vision of diversifying the economy and strengthening the country's presence in regional and global platforms. Mr. Speaker, government has taken decisive action to addressing long-standing challenges with availability of medicines in public health facilities. The legislation transforming the central medical stores to a standalone statutory entity has now been passed. This reform will establish an accountable, professionally managed institution with end-to-end visibility of medicine procurement, storage, and distribution across government. The new structure will modernize supply chain management, reduce stockouts, improve forecasting accuracy, and strengthen governance. This transformation is a critical step towards restoring confidence in the health system and ensuring reliable access to essential medicines for all eMaswati. Mr. Speaker, through an important revenue administration reform, government has raised the declaration thresholds at our borders to 10,000 emalangeni. This policy adjustment has encouraged greater compliance and transparency among travellers and traders. Early indications show that marked increase in declaration of goods, strengthening customs monitoring, and positive impacting of the SACU-related receipts. By simplifying compliance while targeting enforcement, this reform improves revenue integrity without increasing tax rates. It reflects our broader strategy of widening the tax base through compliance rather than burdening the already compliant taxpayers. Mr. Speaker, the implementation of a comprehensive salary review marks a significant milestone in strengthening morale, fairness, and professionalism amongst the public service. Following extensive consultations with the Joint Negotiations Forum, government implemented Scenario 3 of the Salary Review Report, including phased adjustment and structured back pay arrangements. This reform addressed long-standing disparities, particularly with the security forces and critical public service sectors, while maintaining fiscal sustainability through a staggered implementation. A motivated and fairly compensated public service is essential for improved service delivery, institutional stability, and economic confidence. Mr. Speaker, the government's made structural progress in expanding domestic energy generation capacity through recently signed power purchase and grid connection agreements. These include solar projects, a 40-megawatt biomass facility, and the Lower Makutuza hydropower plant, all currently advancing towards implementation. These projects will significantly diversify our energy mix, reduce dependency on imported electricity, create employment opportunities, enhance tariff stability, and support industrial growth. Energy security is a prerequisite for sustainable economic development, and these energy investments position Eswatini firmly on a path towards greater renewable energy independence and environmental sustainability. In addition, the government has issued notices of intent to award contracts of up to 1,000 megawatts to 9 independent power producers. These IPPs are currently at various stages of project development, and the government expects to finalise the awards within the current financial year. Mr. Speaker, Eswatini's economic growth trajectory remains encouraging, supported by infrastructure expansion, private sector investment, manufacturing recovery, and public sector reforms. The economy has demonstrated resilience despite global uncertainty. Sustained growth strengthens government's revenues, improves debt sustainability, and creates employment opportunities for our people. Importantly, this growth is increasingly supported by capital investments and productivity improvements rather than consumption alone. Maintaining this momentum remains central to our medium-term fiscal strategy. Mr. Speaker, investor confidence in the Kingdom continues to strengthen independent assessments, including reports from the multilateral institutions such as the World Bank, which have acknowledged improvements in regulatory processes, digitization of services, and institutional reforms that enhance the ease of doing business. The operationalization of the business one-stop shop, improvements in customs processing times, and the enhanced financial sector regulations have reduced transaction costs and improved predictability for investors. The oversubscription of our sovereign bonds and sustained capital inflows further affirm that Eswatini is increasingly viewed as a credible, stable, and investor-ready destination. Mr. Speaker, agape love means celebrating progress but not becoming complacent. We still face youth unemployment, high poverty levels, climate vulnerability that's decimating our road infrastructure and agriculture, and global trade uncertainties. Therefore, this budget is not a celebration of arrival, it's a declaration of intent. The global economy has exhibited resilience amid the emerging policy shifts since the beginning of 2025. Global growth is projected at 3.3% in 2025 and 2026, before easing slightly to 3.2% in 2027. The US implemented a series of new tariff measures not seen in a century and adjusted several trade deals with key trading partners, which impacted prices, investments, and consumption. Although adaptation policies, along with front-loading of trade by most economies, supported resilience in 2025, the global outlook remains fragile. These factors, together with lingering effects of trade tensions and prolonged policy uncertainty, are expected to weigh down on growth in 2026. Global growth, therefore, remains below the pre-pandemic average growth of 3.7%. Growth in advanced economies is projected at 1.5%, both in 2025 and 2026, supported by easing financial conditions and continued fiscal support. In sub-Saharan Africa, growth is projected to remain steady at 4.1% in 2024 and 2025, and rising modestly to 4.4% in 2026, supported by macroeconomic stabilization and reform efforts by many countries. South Africa's economy is expected to grow by 1.2% in 2025 and 1.6% in 2026, attributed to an improvement in stable power supply mainly. Several countries in the sub-Saharan Africa region have previously enjoyed preferential access to the US market under the AGOA Act. However, the Act lapsed in September 2025, causing investment uncertainty in beneficiary countries. On February 3, 2026, however, President Trump signed legislative or legislation reauthorizing AGOA through to December 31st, 2026. This one-year extension provides limited continuity for duty-free access to the US market for eligible nations, backdated to September 30, 2025. The Eswatini economy has remained resilient despite ongoing economic challenges. In 2024, real GDP growth is expected to moderate at 3%, down from 3.5% in 2023, reflecting weaker consumption demand, resulting in a contraction of 3.3% in wholesale and retail trade services, as well as reduced agricultural activities due to a decline in animal production. However, it was partly offset by a strong rebound in manufacturing, which grew 7.8%, supported by improved external demand and agro-processing activities due to a strong recovery in crop production. Mr. Speaker, preliminary estimates of 2025 reflect a GDP growth of 5.6%, anchored by robust public and private sector investments in line with the implementation of infrastructure development plans. Major infrastructure projects, including the Unpacking Dam, under the Konungwavuma Water Augmentation Project, energy projects, expanded ICT services, sustained growth momentum in the manufacturing industry, and private sector investments boosting the construction sector by 17.1%. Wholesale and retail activities grew by 9.7%, boosted by consumer demand and rising real wages in the public sector, which contributed 1.35 percentage points to the 2025 growth. Manufacturing also recorded sustained growth of 2.9% in 2025, underpinned by increased activity in the textile sector, food processing and other manufacturing industries, which include domestic appliances and non-metal products. The information and communications sector expanded significantly by 38.2%, reflecting continued investment in digital infrastructure. On the negative side, the mining sector posted poor performance, declining by 1.3% in 2025, reversing the strong growth recorded in 2024. Despite a 12.9% rise in international arrivals, accommodation services remain subdued due to reduced conferencing activity linked to the freeze in foreign-funded programs. The medium-term outlook remains cautiously optimistic, with growth projected at 5.2% in 2026, supported by sustained public and private investments. Key growth drivers include major infrastructure projects such as the Strategic Oil Reserve, the construction of the MR14 and MR21, which is a 110-kilometer road connecting Spofaneni to Nsogo and Maloma to Spanbanweni, the central bank headquarters, the Manzini Mall, renewable energy initiatives, and the continued implementation of the Unpacking Dam, amongst others. Moreover, the manufacturing industry is anticipated to benefit from increased external demand and private investment, while agriculture is expected to remain resilient despite climate-related challenges. The tertiary sector is also projected to benefit from the continued investment in ICT services, transportation, and tourism. However, downside risks remain elevated. These include heightened global uncertainty, leading to commodity price volatility and trade disruptions, which may constrain export-orientated sectors. Additionally, climate-related shocks pose significant risks to agriculture production and could delay the implementation of major construction projects. Mr. Speaker, inflationary pressure remains generally contained in 2025. Annual consumer inflation averaged 3.2% in the 11 months to November 2025, down from 4% over the same period in 2024, with inflation in the second half of the year constantly below 3%. This moderation was mainly driven by lower food and transport inflation, reflecting declines in the prices of key food items such as rice and dairy products, as well as slower increases in sugar and reductions in domestic fuel prices. Transport inflation also eased in line with lower fuel costs and lower increases in vehicle purchasing prices, supported by a decline of about 15% in international Brent crude oil. In addition, price increases for housing rentals and utilities moderated in 2025 compared to 2024. However, upward price pressures are observed in alcoholic beverages and tobacco, largely reflecting higher sin taxes. In the medium term, international oil prices are expected to remain broadly stable, implying a muted impact on domestic headline inflation, particularly for transport and food components. Nonetheless, recent public sector wage adjustments, higher bread prices, and lingering base effects are projected to exert upward pressure on domestic inflation. As a result, inflation is expected to rise modestly to about 4% in 2026 and 3.8% in 2027, compared to an outturn of 3.2% in 2025. Mr. Speaker, Eswatini's external sector position is projected to weaken in 2025, with the current account surplus declining from 1.9 billion emalangeni in 2024 to about 546 million. This narrowing of the surplus is mainly driven by a faster increase in imports than exports, reflecting higher demand for imported goods and services associated with the implementation of mega projects. The acceleration of imports of both goods and services is expected to persist into 2026, thereby exerting additional pressure on the current account. Furthermore, Eswatini continues to be a net recipient of foreign direct investment from the rest of the world, which supports capital formation and job creation, but also results in higher outflows in the income account in the form of dividends and interest payments to foreign investors. SACU is expected to increase by 13% in the 2026-2027 financial year, rising from this year's 10.4 billion emalangeni to 11.7 billion emalangeni. In addition, the secondary income account surplus is also projected to decline to 11.8 billion in 2025 from 13.6 billion in 2024, reflecting a 20.4% reduction in SACU receipts for the 2025-2026 relative to the 2024-2025 financial year. Governments will continue to closely monitor developments in the external sector and pursue policies that strengthen export performance, promote domestic production, and safeguard external sustainability. Mr. Speaker, in 2025, the Central Bank of Eswatini pursued an accommodative monetary policy stance in support of economic recovery and also reduced the discount rate by a cumulative 25 basis points from 7% to 6.75% in May 2025, maintaining this stance to date. This easing was broadly aligned with a moderation in global and regional monetary policy conditions, subdued domestic inflation outcomes, and the improved inflation outlook for the domestic economy. The accommodative stance aims to stimulate economic recovery activity while maintaining inflation within acceptable levels. Moody's Ratings maintained Eswatini long-term currency issuer rating at B2 with a stable outlook in November 2025. The stable outlook reflects expectations that the government will continue making progress in addressing fiscal challenges, maintaining political stability, and preserving macroeconomic stability. The government continued to raise funding under the 4 billion JSE South African Rand bond program. During 2025, government raised 784 million South African rands, bringing the cumulative amount raised from the JSE to 1.184 billion South African rands. Going forward, the government is expected to return to South African capital market for further issuances, capitalizing on the decreasing interest rate environment and the broader investor base available in South Africa. In addition, the government continued to mobilize funding in the domestic market through the issuance of bonds and treasury bills. The increased frequency of issuing T-bills improved market performance in 2025, with subscriptions and allotment rates at 160% and 110% respectively. Bond performance was also strong, supported by the relaunch of the infrastructure bond, which recorded an allotment rate of 125%, signaling sustained investor confidence in government securities. The country's gross official reserves continued to increase between April and November 2025, supported by stable SACU receipts, higher import-earning remittances, and foreign exchange proceeds from external funding for government projects. In July 2025, the central bank successfully acquired its first monetary gold, further boosting and diversifying reserves while providing a hedge against geopolitical risks. As a result, gross official reserves averaged 11.5 billion emalangeni between April and November 2025, reaching a peak of 15.5 billion in November 2025 compared to an average of 10.2 billion during the same period in 2024. The reserve's import cover also improved, rising from an average of 2.7 months in April to November 2024 to 2.8 months in April to November 2025, with a peak of 3.6 months in November 2025. In the short to medium term, reserves are expected to be further supported by an increase in SARC receipts in the 2026-2027 financial year. Provisional banking licenses were issued to Letshego Bank, Eswatini, and Swaziland Building Society Bank, Eswatini, expanding access to financial services. Progress was also made in sustainable finance through the development of the Eswatini Green Finance Taxonomy, alongside the implementation of a trade verification system. Digital transformation advanced through improved management of private sector external debt and regulatory approvals, while financial inclusion was supported by removing charges on the first digital wallet withdrawal per transaction effective March 2025. Significant progress was achieved in strengthening the national payment system in line with the regional harmonization goals. The central bank, working with government and supported by the World Bank, drafted national payment system regulations to operationalize the National Payment Systems Act of 2023. These regulations will enable the licensing of a broader range of payment service providers than what prevails at present. Implementation of the Eswatini payment switch continued with all banks and non-bank participants, which is now connected to the FOS payment platform, enabling instant domestic payments 24/7. And further expansion is planned to include QR code payments that will enable merchants and government payments that will be processed seamlessly using your smartphone. In essence, what used to take up to 24 hours to transfer money between banks now takes 2 seconds. Mr. Speaker, the Eswatini banking sector remains broadly resilient, supported by adequate capital and liquidity buffers. As at September 2025, the capital adequacy ratio stood at 15.8%, well above the minimum regulatory requirement of 8%. While the sector remained profitable, the non-performing loans ratio increased slightly to 7.1% in September 2025. Liquidity conditions improved, with a liquid assets to deposit ratio reaching 34.3% during the review period. Although concentration risks remain elevated, stress test results confirm resilience to moderate shocks. However, vulnerabilities to large borrower defaults persist. The insurance and pension sectors continue to serve as important stability anchors within the financial system. Pension funds assets increased by 11.4% to 55.8 billion emalangeni, representing 57.1% of GDP and 34.4% of total financial sector assets. While investment portfolios remain diversified, elevated exposure to government securities and foreign equities increased market and concentration risks. Capital market assets rose by 17.7% to 41 billion emalangeni. However, low market liquidity and narrow participation continue to constrain market depth. The insurance sector remained profitable, although rising operational costs, climate change risks, and high market concentrations are among leading factors that pose emerging challenges. Mr. Speaker, the accommodative monetary policy stance pursued in 2024, which reduced borrowing and debt service costs, continued to stimulate the private sector credit, providing the necessary catalyst for growth and employment creation in the economy. Between April and October 2025, year-on-year average growth in private sector credit was 8.1%, slightly lower than 8.7% recorded over the same period in 2024. In 2025, growth was concentrated in the business sector, with business credit rising by 14.2% from 12.6% in 2024, supported by robust performance in agriculture, manufacturing, and distribution industries. Conversely, household credit growth slowed to an average of 2.3%, down from 6% in the same period 2024-2025 financial year, reflecting persistently tight consumer finances despite lower borrowing costs. The amount of money in circulation within the economy expanded by an average of 5.9% between April and October 2025, compared to 9.9% in the same period in 2024. Growth was driven by increases in both private sector credit and net foreign assets. Notably, interest-earning deposits grew by 7.8%, indicating a higher tendency amongst depositors to save, while transaction deposits rose at a slower pace of 3%. Mr. Speaker, in the short to medium term, growth in private sector credit and money supply is expected to remain positive, supported by the ongoing recovery in economic activity. Household credit is also expected to improve, aided by subdued inflation, declining interest rates, and stronger household finances, particularly following the recent civil service salary review. Mr. Speaker, support measures for MSMEs include financing schemes such as the Informal Traders Revolving Fund, the MSME Revolving Fund, the Small Scale Enterprise Loan Guarantee Scheme, and the Export Credit Guarantee Scheme. These initiatives provide entrepreneurs with the capital necessary to establish, expand, and sustain their businesses. To date, 56 million has been distributed under the SME Revolving Fund, resulting in the creation of 3,096 jobs. Additionally, the Small Scale Enterprise Loan Guarantee Scheme has supported 146 businesses to the value of 35 million emalangeni, further supporting enterprise growth and employment creation. The latest studies show that there are 70,000 MSMEs in the kingdom, which employs over 90,000 Eswatini and contributes significantly to Eswatini's GDP. 74% of these MSMEs are located in the rural areas and are mainly concentrated in the retail sector. The agriculture sector is the most dominant in terms of employment. Government provides support for 123 businesses through the incubation program, which helps SMEs to develop their business acumen and grow their businesses. Through MSME capacity development and sector support program, which targets MSMEs that are not under the incubation program, government capacitated over 1,500 entrepreneurs from different Nkundla on entrepreneurship, business planning, and financial literacy. Mr. Speaker, the international finance architecture is changing swiftly, with a rapid decline in aid, making the shift towards trade inevitable. Eswatini's response needs to be equally swift and targeted in order to find a sustainable solution to the financing gap for small businesses, who represent the backbone of our economy. Under the leadership of His Majesty the King, we are championing the establishment of a continental blended finance mechanism called Africa Strategic Investment Alliance, AFCIA, founded on the Africa Union Summit decision, which will enable us to provide collateral-free loans to MSMEs, women and youth, as well as build digital and financial literacy nationwide. Working under the collective umbrella with other African Union member states, DFIs and private sector companies will be able to attract additional funding for small businesses by leveraging technology. We have provided 10 million emalangeni in this budget to establish this entity. Government will launch an interministerial committee to oversee the country program and the establishment of a regional head office for Southern Africa for the Africa Strategic Investment Alliance, AFCIA, in the Kingdom of Eswatini. Joining AFCIA positions the Kingdom of Eswatini to boost its trade under the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, attract investment flows from South Africa, increase digital and financial inclusion for marginalized groups, including people with disabilities, and increase youth unemployment through the country program that will be initiated during the second quarter of 2026. Mr. Speaker, factory shells remain a cornerstone of government's industrial development strategy. They provide ready-to-use infrastructure that enables investors to commence operations without delay, thereby reducing the time and costs associated with establishing businesses. This approach removes a major barrier to investment, particularly in the manufacturing sector, and sends a strong signal of the government's commitment to supporting industrial growth. By offering fully serviced industrial facilities, Eswatini is positioned as a more competitive and investor-friendly destination in a region where countries are actively competing for investments. The government has completed and handed over the Kamula and Nzevane factory shells to investors. These facilities are expected to create a combined total of 1,500 jobs. In addition, construction of the Ngwenya, Pigs Peak and Sikwe factory shells commenced and is currently providing employment for over 200 people during construction phase, and 2,223 once operational. These factories are expected to be completed in the 2026-27 financial year. Furthermore, the Johnson's Workwear factory in Hlangano has been completed and is expected to become operational this year with anticipated employment of over 2,000 people. Government has transferred the control of all government-owned factory shells to the Eswatini Investment Promotion Authority, who now collects all the rentals for these factory shells. This funding exceeds 100 million emalangeni per annum, and after a renovation program will be used to build new factory shells. In addition, government has provided 87 million emalangeni for the construction of factory shells in this budget. Mr. Speaker, this year has presented us with an extraordinary challenge. The United States government has announced a significant shift in its global health financing priorities, which has created a fiscal shock for our health system. PEPFAR funding, which has been a cornerstone of our HIV/AIDS response, is under review. We have engaged directly with the US government representatives, and I'm pleased to report that an MOU has been signed to ensure continuity of HIV support. Mr. Speaker, we continue to shift our health system from late-stage treatment to prevention and early detection. We have deployed 4 mobile cancer screening units across the country, bringing screening directly to communities. Early detection saves lives. Early detection is also more cost-effective than late-stage detection. To complement the health financing reform, government is poised to operationalize the transformation of the central medical stores into a semi-autonomous, accountable and efficient Eswatini Medical Supply Agency. This reform will strengthen governance arrangements, modernize procurement and logistics systems, reduce chronic stockouts, and ensure the availability of essential medicines and medical supplies across all levels of care. In this budget, 40 million emalangeni has been provided under the recurrent budget to cater for the cost of this crucial exercise. Mr. Speaker, our goal is that no Liswati should travel more than 8 kilometers to a health facility. Every clinic we build, every community health worker we deploy, every medicine we stock, all of which is directed to a singular aim, a healthy nation that does not have to choose between distance and care. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to report that the Palala Fund, which provides emergency financial assistance for patients requiring treatment beyond its borders, has had its outstanding debt reduced to 30 million emalangeni. This represents significant progress in managing one of our most sensitive health financing obligations. Mr. Speaker, in our HIV response, Eswatini has again led the continent. We are among the first countries globally to introduce lenacapavir as part of our national HIV treatment protocol. Lenacapavir is a long-acting injectable. A patient receives 2 injections a year rather than daily pills. This transforms adherence and dramatically improves health outcomes. The Opium and Habit-Forming Drug Amendment Bill 2025 was gazetted towards the end of the last Parliament session and is ready for tabling and onward processing through Parliament. If this is passed, it should move many people from informal to formal employment and create thousands of new jobs. Mr. Speaker, for the 2026-2027 financial year, the Ministry of Health has been allocated 3.24 billion emalangeni. This is our commitment to a health system that prevents, heals, and loves its people back to wholeness. Mr. Speaker, the threat of retrenchment is one of the most anxiety-causing realities facing eMaswati households. This year, we have developed the Unemployment Benefit Insurance Fund, a structured safety net that will, for the first time, provide funding for workers who lose their employment through no fault of their own. This is a social compact. It says, we see you in your moments of vulnerability and will not leave you there. Mr. Speaker, government, through the Measurement and Testing Unit, successfully held the Eswatini National Career Expo in July 2025. It engaged 17,984 participants across 5 locations, targeting in-school youth, out-of-school youth, and persons with disabilities. The event provided crucial career guidance and networking opportunities. Mr. Speaker, we've also launched the National Human Resource Development Policy from 2024 to 2030. This policy coordinates our skills development, training, and employment strategy across all ministries. For the first time, Eswatini has a coherent, integrated national plan for developing its most important resource, its people. Mr. Speaker, for the 2026-2027 financial year, the Ministry of Labour and Social Security has been allocated 858.3 million emalangeni. Mr. Speaker, education is where agape love has its longest investment. The decision we make today in our classrooms will determine the kind of nation we are in 2040. This year, we have taken bold steps to transform what happens in these classrooms through the rollout of competency-based education, a curriculum reform that moves from rote memorization to applied understanding. Mr. Speaker, we are also introducing ASA levels as a pathway for Eswatini students to gain internationally recognized qualifications without leaving the country. This opens university doors across the world for every Eswatini student with the talent and the determination to walk through them. Mr. Speaker, 340 grade 0 classrooms have already received the competency-based education curriculum, and we have targeted 243 schools for full CBE material distribution. In parallel, we have launched the Teach at the Right Level pilot in 30 primary schools, an evidence-based approach that meets children at their actual learning level rather than their grade level. Mr. Speaker, our Staff and Student Education Management Information System, SEMIS, built on the DHIS2 platform, is now considered an Africa-wide benchmark for education data management. Real-time data on teachers, students, and school performance allows us to direct resources where they are needed, not where they assume to be needed. Mr. Speaker, this year we have converted 130 primary school teachers and 113 high school teachers from temporary to permanent employment. A teacher who has security in their own life is better placed to build security in the lives of their students. In the 2026-2027 financial year, government has received an additional grant of 85.36 million emalangeni from the Japan International Cooperation Agency, referred to as JICA, for the construction of 4 secondary schools in support of expansion of secondary school education infrastructure at Ngwenyameni, New Tulwane, Mapungwane, and Lavomisa. This represents 1 new secondary school per region and is expected to be completed in 1 year. Mr. Speaker, in the 2026-2027 financial year, the Ministry of Education is allocated 5.06 billion emalangeni in the recurrent budget, 408.7 million in the capital budget. In addition, 194.5 million has been allocated for OVC funds and 702.3 million emalangeni for scholarships. This total of 6.4 billion emalangeni, representing 16.7% of the total budget, is spent on educating eMaSwati. This is by far the highest budget allocation, reflecting government's intentionality in investing in our youth for future productivity in our economy. Mr. Speaker, government continues to champion the rights and well-being of vulnerable populations through progressive reforms and expanded social protection coverage. During the last year, the DPM's office intensified the transition from institutional care to family-based care, prioritizing kingship care, foster care, and adoption. Through partnerships with faith-based and non-government organizations like Bulembu Ministries and SOS Children's Village, children were successfully reunited with extended families, strengthening family systems and reducing reliance on institutional care. To respond to emerging social challenges affecting the country, government is on course to establish more decentralized service centers across the country. As we continue to build a nation where every child is protected, empowered, and given the opportunity to thrive, government remains at the forefront of safeguarding children's rights and well-being across the kingdom. In the 2026-27 financial year, government, through the DPM's office, will spearhead the establishment of community justice committees nationwide. These committees will promote restorative justice approaches for children at risk of being in conflict with the law, reinforcing rehabilitation over punishment. It will also review and implement the National Children's Policy and early childhood care and Development Framework, ensuring early investments in children's development, protection and inclusion, with particular attention to children with disabilities. Mr. Speaker, significant progress has been made in implementing the Persons with Disabilities Act of 2018, including the development of the Person with Disabilities Registration Regulations of 2025. The Mzimpofu Hostel has been upgraded to provide appropriate residential care for persons with disabilities. Mr. Speaker, the Disaster Risk Management Act of 2025 has been enacted. This gives Eswatini a legal and operational framework for responding to disasters with speed, coordination and accountability. When disaster strikes, the speed of government's response is a measure of how much it loves its people. Mr. Speaker, in the 2025-26 financial year, food assistance programs reached 263,090 Eswatini in 58,201 households across all 59 Tinkundla. Additionally, 256 houses have been constructed for vulnerable households who previously had no safe shelter. Mr. Speaker, for the 26-27 financial year, we are committing to building houses for 60 additional vulnerable households and livelihood support for 200 families to provide vocational and agriculture training. These are not statistics, these are specific families with specific names in specific communities awaiting for government's assistance. Mr. Speaker, the government has allocated 1.2 billion emalangeni to the Deputy Prime Minister's office in order to continue with the essential services of taking care of the most vulnerable. Mr. Speaker, agriculture remains the industry that could have the biggest positive impact on our economy in the short term. The country has been negatively impacted by the outbreak of foot and mouth disease, which is one of the highly guarded transboundary animal diseases. This has resulted in the suspension of exports and its disrupted internal markets on food commodities of animal origin. There is a need to upscale investment in the prevention and control of animal diseases. This will be attained through the rehabilitation of cordon fences to prevent transboundary livestock movement, strengthening the capacity of national labs through the provision of equipment and reagents to facilitate local testing and detection of pathogens is of paramount importance. Efforts were directed towards containing and controlling the disease, including the erection of cordon fences, establishing of checkpoints, and provision of human resources for the operation. A budget of 15 million emalangeni has been allocated for the rehabilitation of cordon fences, and between the reallocations in the 2025-26 budget, the supplementary budget, and the budget I'm tabling today, 57 million emalangeni has been provided for vaccines for the rollout of a national vaccination exercise. Mr. Speaker, the Eswatini Agricultural Development Fund has been fully operationalized, providing loans in excess of 22 million to qualifying agribusinesses. The businesses, including startups and expansions of existing operations. The fund was also supported a mechanization project in collaboration with Standard Bank, the Embassy of the United States of America, as well as Swazitrack. Despite it being a revolving fund that should be self-sustaining, we've added another 10 million emalangeni towards this fund in this budget to make it more impactful to the farmers. The commercial maize project, Hamba Buya Revolving Fund, has grown into one of Eswatini's most strategic investments for achieving food sovereignty. Under the government's leadership and through Eswatini Water and Agricultural Development, referred to as EWADE, disciplined execution over 4 seasons, the program has supported 402 farmers, cultivated 3,141 hectares, and produced 7,634 metric tons of maize, directly strengthening the nation's ability to feed itself and reduce reliance on volatile regional grain markets. In the 2024-25 farming season, delivered 3,530 metric tons of maize, marking the program's strongest performance to date. For the 2025-26 season, 248 farmers, which is constituted of 192 men, 56 women, and 21 youth, have qualified for support. These farmers were provided with farm inputs with over 18 million emalangeni. They cultivated 1,860 hectares and are expected to produce an estimated 7,444 metric tons of maize. These achievements reflect the government's vision and EWADE's stellar execution of expanding national maize production, strengthening rural livelihoods, creating jobs, and reducing import dependency. In the 2024-2025 financial year, government launched the Smallholder Agriculture Productivity Enhancement and Marketing Project, referred to as SAPEMP, a 851 million emalangeni investment aimed at transforming Eswatini's rural economy. This 8-year multi-partner program, supported by IFAD, the Green Climate Fund, government and private partners, is poised to revolutionize smallholder agriculture. SAPEMP will uplift 19,600 households, benefiting more than 117,000 citizens, while prioritizing women, youth, and vulnerable groups. It's designed to make farming more productive, resilient, and profitable, to strengthen food security and nutrition, creating at least 7,500 jobs across all 4 regions. Unpacking Dam, the flagship component of the Mkondongomva Water Augmentation Program, has now surpassed 44% completion mark. This is the largest single investment government has made in a multi-stage agriculture project. And this year, we have allocated 1.6 billion emalangeni in the budget towards Unpacking Dam construction, which is an integral part of the Mkondongomva project. At this pace, we remain confident that the dam will be delivered by 2028, underscoring disciplined project control and responsible stewardship of public resources. The holistic MWAB project is designed to create 100,000 jobs after full implementation, when both dams have been fully constructed. Mr. Speaker, to date, over 1,800 jobs have been created across the various components, from Unpacking Dam construction under the Sakalive joint venture to household resettlement works, bush clearing and soil preparation, farming activities and other livelihood restoration efforts. Work with key ministries, in this case being Education and Labour, and supported by the Africa Development Bank, EWADE through NWAB program is championing skills transfer by supporting an apprentice initiative that places 50 young diploma holders with Sakalive joint venture for hands-on training at the dam site. Eswatini Youth Employment Opportunities Project, referred to as EYOP, funded by the World Bank Group to the value of 486 million emalangeni, to be implemented over a period of 5 years, is designed to create jobs and entrepreneurial pathways for youth aged 18 to 35. The project places strong emphasis on practical training, agro-business incubation, and strategic partnerships with the private sector to catalyze meaningful sustainable employment. 30,000 young beneficiaries will be empowered to participate in 3 high-impact streams: on-farm ventures such as crop and livestock production, off-farm enterprises including post-harvest and value addition facilities, and employable skills development through on-the-job training. The Lower Usutu Smallholder Irrigation Project, referred to as LUCIP Phase 2, is now in its completion and closing stage. 20 farming companies have been established and are fully operational. 7 contractors are currently on ground undertaking on-farm development activities, including bush clearing, land preparation, irrigation system installation, and planting, finalizing on-farm development for 10 schemes under the Ngomatulu and Miyeni chiefdoms. All schemes are projected to be fully operational by the end of March 2026 and will then be providing 1,687 permanent jobs. Mr. Speaker, under LUCIP Phase 2, 6 portable water supply schemes have been established, all now fully operational, providing improved water services to over 15,000 people, marking an increase of 2,969 beneficiaries, largely attributed to the Sinya Mantulwa portable water scheme. Sinya Mantulwa. And the NWAB. I know, I didn't break it up to spell it right. And the NWAB interim water schemes.
Order, Bahlonishwa. Minister, you are doing well. Please continue.
The Senior Mantulwa was the word he was looking for there. I had to break it up to pronounce it properly, Honourable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, government through NMC has successfully procured maize from local farmers at a competitive price of 6,000 emalangeni for ordinary farmers and 6,300 emalangeni per tonne for contracted farmers, representing an increase of 3.4% when compared to the previous financial year. 50 hectares of Swazi Nation land has been availed to government for purposes of constructing the National Grain Reserves Facility. For the 2026-27 financial year, government allocated 2.2 billion emalangeni to the Ministry of Agriculture. Mr. Speaker, the government of Eswatini is making positive strides towards the provision of safe and clean water supply to all eMaswati, irrespective of location. The achievement of water supply, sanitation and hygiene master plan during 2025 is indeed a significant milestone for the sector. The master plan demonstrates water supply gaps and the needed budget for water supply infrastructure development throughout the kingdom to ensure that all eMaswati receive affordable, clean and safe water at all times. Testimonial to this is the to this assertion is the rollout of mega projects such as the Nhlangano Spambanweni, Lomahasha Namasha, and the Manzini Regional Integrated Water Supply and Sanitation Project. All of these mega water schemes will be completed in 2026. The government, through the Ministry of Natural Resources and World Vision collaboration, completed 7 macro water supply schemes. These are the Bethel Extension, Lombatsela, Mbogwe, Nsenga, Gebeni, Matlangacha, and Tutugani, while construction continues at the Moti, Lutlangotini, Phase 2, and Kupuga schemes. These partnerships also restored functionality to over 72 micro water supply systems across the country, extending clean water access to rural communities and grid infrastructure, that grid infrastructure could not reach. Mr. Speaker, the Geological Survey Department has conducted an extensive mineral survey in the recent past. Potential mineral targets were generated. The country will now make follow-up surveys on the various targets to fully unlock the value of the natural resources, and a budget of 6.13 million emalangeni has been provided for this exercise. The Minerals Subcommittee had some positive developments in the number of mineral rights that were granted under the auspices of Ngwenyama in Trust for eMaswati. There were 3 coal mining licenses that were granted, and this included a mining license for our power utility, Eswatini Electricity Company, to embark on a feasibility to develop a thermal power plant that will feed into the national electricity grid. There was also a granting of 2 gold processing licenses for exploration programs in the northwest part of the country. The iron ore project at the defunct Ngwenya iron ore mine site got an extension of a prospecting license to determine the viability of extracting in situ resources. Mr. Speaker, the power sector, through the power procurement program, the government has made remarkable progress towards the construction of 75 megawatt solar PV power plants that have been developed by the private sector, as witnessed during the launch of the 20 megawatt solar PV plant, which will be constructed at Nduma. This will soon be followed by the launch of a 15 megawatt Nzevane solar PV plant. To further diversify the local electricity generation mix, a power purchase and grid connection agreement has been signed with the Bombo Sugar Limited for the development of a 40 megawatt biomass plant that will significantly increase local power generation. These projects, in addition to the 13.6 megawatt Lower Makuduza hydro plant, which is already under construction. The country is finalizing its power purchase agreements with Eskom and the National Transmission Company of South Africa for a period of 10 years. This will give our country enough time to increase its local power generation capacity to the extent of exporting excess power to the region. To ensure reliable power supply and the support of connection of households in the Eswatini region, EEC has completed the construction of 4 substations in Hluti, Lavomisa, Matanjeni and Nhlangano, as well as a 132 kV transmission line from Nhlangano to Lavomisa. The utility further completed the construction of another 132 kV line from Tualeni to Stonehenge that provides reliable supply for the capital city. Mr. Speaker, through the Rural Electrification Programme, the government continued to improve access to electricity. In the 2025-26 financial year, 4,227 households were electrified, and 1,500 ready boards installed for previously unelectrified households. Furthermore, in line with the need to come up with innovative solutions for the electrification of the last mile customers, the government has recently embarked on a pilot project for solar home systems that targets 40 households at Kele, that were previously impossible to electrify through grid connection. In ensuring energy access through grid extension and strengthening, the government, through the assistance of the World Bank Group, will undertake the Ascent project, which intends to ensure that Eswatini achieves 100% access to electricity by 2030. The project will assist in the electrification of households in both rural and urban areas throughout the country. Mr. Speaker, in the petroleum sector, the government has secured funding from the Exim Bank on the Republic of China and Taiwan for the construction of the Strategic Oil Reserve Facility. The construction company has begun preliminary works on the facility located at Puzamoya. This marks a significant step towards the establishment of an 80 million litre national fuel reserve, which will enhance the country's fuel supply security. This project is expected to be completed by the end of 2028. For the 2026-27 financial year, government has allocated 1.73 billion emalangeni to the Ministry of Natural Resources, Energy and Mining. Mr. Speaker, the much anticipated opening and operationalization of the International Conference Centre, what referred to as the ICC, in April 2026 is set to be transformational for the tourism industry in Eswatini. An additional 100 million has been set aside in this budget, specifically to ensure that all provisions are made available to enable the ICC to deliver professional services to local and international visitors wishing to use the world-class facility. The ICC is expected to stimulate tourism, hospitality, aviation, and related service industries, generating thousands of jobs and boosting foreign exchange earnings. Mr. Speaker, government will continue to strengthen environmental governance, mobilize climate and environmental finance, and empower communities to respond to emerging environmental risks. By supporting the Eswatini Environmental Authority through this budget, we're protecting the national capital that underpins agriculture, tourism, energy security, and long-term fiscal stability. This budget therefore reflects responsible leadership and a clear commitment to securing a prosperous, resilient, and sustainable future for the Kingdom of Eswatini. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Tourism has been allocated 194.4 million emalangeni in the 2026-2027 financial year. Mr. Speaker, in pursuit of its mandate of transforming the digital economy agenda, government will continue to focus on information and communication technologies implementation as a priority and a key enabler to attain the vision of a knowledge-based economy and a digitally inclusive society. During the 2025-26 financial year, government recorded significant achievements across regulatory enforcement, spectrum management, cybersecurity, data protection, infrastructure support, broadcasting expansion, postal and courier reform, and consumer protection, as well as service sector strengthening. The vision towards efficient service delivery by leveraging digital transformation has yielded notable achievements in e-government. These include the development of Government in Your Hand app that was launched in May 2025, which brings services closer to eMaswati. The current downloads, which are above 10,000, are increasing daily, which shows user confidence, and government will be increasing the number of services that can be accessed through this app. Preparatory work to merge Eswatini Broadcasting Information Services, EBIS, and Eswatini Television Authority, ESTVA, to form the Eswatini Broadcasting Corporation as directed by the Broadcasting Act of 2023 has begun. This work will include consultations with both stakeholders on change of staff management and the legal transition process. Currently, a report to be used to inform the process has been completed. A number of eMaswati are taking advantage of the free lessons offered through the Coders Eswatini initiative. To date, 5,000 citizens have enrolled in courses such as programming, artificial intelligence, data science, and Android development. This initiative, in partnership with the United Arab Emirates, aims to bridge the digital divide and boost innovation for economic development. to ensure efficient delivery of government services to Eswatini, a budget of 35 million has been allocated to upgrade the mainframe computer system in order to deal with the frequent downtimes we're currently experiencing. This budget provides 413.9 million emalangeni to the Ministry of ICT for the rollout of these targeted programs. Mr. Speaker, the 2026-2027 financial year marks the beginning of a crucial national exercise, the Eswatini Population and Housing Census, which will provide reliable and timely socio-economic data showing how the country's population is structured for evidence-based planning and policy decision-making. The last census was conducted in 2017, and it was the first digital census in the country. The next one is going to be held in 2027. The Central Statistics Office has begun data collection for the first phase of the census, which is the mapping and listing of all households in the country. A budget allocation of 130.5 million emalangeni has been set aside in this year's budget for this exercise. The nation is invited to fully participate in this national assignment to ensure it succeeds and that no one is left behind, especially on census night, to confirm that the ultimate population figures produced present a realistic estimate of how many people the country has in 2027. Mr. Speaker, the government recognises the damage caused by the impact of extreme climate change on our road network, particularly after the recent rains, and especially in rural and district roads. The asphalt road network has continued to expand and currently amounts for an estimated 51% of gazetted roads. In the medium term, the government, working with development partners, is expected to increase the paved road network to close to 60%. The government is cognizant of the road maintenance challenges. It is necessary that damaged roads are fixed to a level where climate change does not destroy them on an annual basis. This year, government will spend 164 million emalangeni for the rehabilitation and maintenance of feeder roads. It will spend 70 million emalangeni for the maintenance and upgrade of roads, crossings and bridges. An additional 364 million emalangeni has been set aside for the construction of main and district double-sealed tarred roads. To enhance planning and execution of road maintenance, the government will prioritise the operationalisation of the Roads Authority in 2026. At the end of the year, 450 million emalangeni will be available in the Roads Authority Fund for the maintenance and upgrades of roads throughout the country. This is in addition of the 880 million for the Eswatini and Sogo, the MR14, MR21 roads. This brings the total amount available for road infrastructure in 2026-2027 financial year to nearly 2 billion emalangeni. Mr. Speaker, government also remains committed to improving road safety and will continue to align interventions with the Africa Road Safety Charter and the National Road Safety Strategy, which aims to reduce road accidents and fatalities by 50% by 2030. Mr. Speaker, the state of most government buildings are deplorable. This must be improved to ensure that buildings that are used to access public services as well as used as residences are in a decent state. We're at the final stages of negotiations with DBSA for a 2.4 billion South African Rand loan for the Housing Board, of which 368 million will be drawn down in this year's budget to build more institutional houses and to renovate government houses and building infrastructure. This loan request is yet to come to Parliament for approval in this financial year. Mr. Speaker, the government has been instrumental in strengthening Eswatini's aviation sector through foundational regulatory and operational milestones. Eswatini achieved an impressive 80.48% in the ICAO aviation security audit. A provision of 80 million emalangeni has been allocated for the audit in the 26-27 financial year. The recognition agreement by the African Airlines Association is a reflection that the Eswatini airline has made a mark in the sub-region aviation landscape, with Eswatini securing a new route to Lusaka, Zambia for 2 trips per week. The airline securing more routes is highly dependent on Eswatini remaining certified by International Air Transport Association, IATA. This certification will strengthen our ability to secure more bilateral air service agreements enhancing regional connectivity, driving trade and tourism. Mr. Speaker, the rail sector has demonstrated resilience over the years, and the opportunities for growth increases as regional integration and global trade increases. Rail provides a convenient mode for the movement of bulk commodities, especially fuel and minerals. Eswatini Railways is pursuing the development of a transit 154-kilometer route that traverses to the Republic of South Africa and a gateway to the North-South corridor, where a lot of bulk commodities are hauled to the seaports of Richards Bay, Durban and Maputo. Eswatini Railways continue to facilitate the clearance of the servitude while exploring opportunities for financing the actual construction of the line. Mr. Speaker, in the 2025-26 financial year, the Regional Development Fund, which refers to as RDF, has completed 74 projects, out of which 19 were infrastructure projects and 55 were income-generating projects. These projects benefited 8,875 eMaswati directly and created 317 permanent jobs. In the 26-27 financial year, government will again allocate 177 million to the RDF fund and an additional 30 million towards clearing of the backlog of the outstanding requests from the constituencies. Government will increase allocation to the Community Development Fund from 188 million in the 25-26 budget to 300 million in the 26-27 budget. This fund continues to have a very positive impact on rural communities through the construction of bridges, roads and other necessary infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, government has been able to reconstruct and rehabilitate 5 Tinkundla centres that have been vandalised, and the Ngwempisi in Nkundla is expected to be completed by the end of the financial year. Government's allocated an amount of 547.8 million emalangeni to the Ministry of Tinkundla, Administration and Development in order to continue with rural development services and its decentralisation mandate. Mr. Speaker, the police play a crucial role in safeguarding the well-being and security of our communities. During the 2024-25 financial year, the police service worked tirelessly to curb criminal activity. However, despite these sustained efforts, reported crime levels increased by 11%. Road traffic accidents during the last financial year showed a decrease of 18% and 9% on fatal and serious accidents respectively. In line with the government programme of action, the police service focuses on community-orientated policing with the aim of reducing crime. This will be made possible through strengthening the trust between law enforcement and the communities and fostering partnerships that address root causes of crime and promote proactive solutions. The Mbutfo Eswatini Defence Force will continue with its peacekeeping role and taking control of our security along the national borders. Mr. Speaker, in the 2026-2027 financial year, His Majesty's Correctional Services plan to review its operational training facility regulations. It will enhance the skills impartation to offenders, optimise production processes at industry and agriculture sectors, and the awarding of certificates to graduating offenders. The installation of a command control centre at Matsapa Correctional Centre will enhance security and surveillance measures in order to reduce escapees. To adhere to UN standards, government will review the rehabilitation and social reintegration policy. Government will upgrade the Correctional Staff College, including the provision of potable water at Palegane, Big Bend, and Mawela Correctional Centres. In the 2025-26 financial year, 70% of offenders completed socio-social therapy, while 35% of offenders completed pre-release reintegration programs and continued agriculture production enhancement to augment the food supplies budget. Correctional Services intensified vocational skills training and trade testing for offenders. Mr. Speaker, the government remains committed to strengthening the fight against corruption. During the 2025-26 financial year, the Anti-Corruption Commission investigated 285 cases, with 6 cases before the courts involving an estimate value of 660 million emalangeni. In addition, 32 corruption awareness initiatives were conducted across the public and private sectors, reaching approximately 1,500 participants, while regional and international cooperation was enhanced through participation in key anti-corruption forums. Government is intentionally introducing several technological reforms, such as vehicle tracking and fleet management systems, IFMIS, and the establishment of Eswatini Medical Stores Agency with the end-to-end medicines tracking solution, and by doing so, reducing the opportunities for corruption. The vehicle management system has already observed a 40% reduction in fuel consumption by the government fleet. Mr. Speaker, the embezzlement of public funds thrives in the shadows of weak coordination of combating such crimes. Building on the mandate from Sibaya, government is strengthening the synergies between the Office of the Auditor General, the Anti-Corruption Commission, and law enforcement. Government supports the Supreme Audit Institution that monitors public funds without fear and favor, providing a stable environment where both the public sector and the private investors can flourish under predictable, transparent, and world-class regulatory framework. Mr. Speaker, government, through the Eswatini Financial Intelligence Center, continues to play a critical role in safeguarding the country's financial system against money laundering and terrorism financing, which pose serious risks to financial stability and economic development. In the 2025-26 financial year, EFIC implemented a compliance program aimed at monitoring the effective application of anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism measures by reporting entities. Key achievements included targeted AML CFT training for high-risk sectors and the development of a comprehensive institutional risk assessment methodology. The government is also preparing for its next Universal Periodic Review under the United Nations Human Rights Council, which is scheduled to take place in October-November 2026 session. This review presents an opportunity for Eswatini to demonstrate progress made since the last session. This is our opportunity to reaffirm our commitment to continuous improvement in human rights governance. Mr. Speaker, government's clear commitment and efforts to advancing sustainable goal number 16, particularly in relation to the access to justice for all, goes beyond the mere establishment of a legal aid office. Government has demonstrated a deliberate and comprehensive approach to building a justice system that is accessible, fair, and responsive to the needs of all citizens by taking decisive steps in strengthening the legal and institutional framework for the provision of legal aid. The enactment of the Legal Aid Act and the Legal Practitioners Act is a significant milestone. These pieces of legislation provide a conducive and modern legislative framework.
Finance, Minister Pazamisa. The time is 11:30. So bengicela Your Excellency kuze Minister atoqhubeka acedzele lo msebenzi wakhe. We invoke Standing Order 263 to suspend Standing Order 30 induna ito cedzela inkulumo yayo ye-budget. Your Excellency, please.
Siyabonga, Mr. Speaker. Ngiyashukumisa, Mr. Speaker, to invoke Standing Order number 263 to suspend number 30. Thank you.
Thanks, Your Excellency. Bahlonishwa sekushunyiswe kule ndlu ukuthi indlu lehloniphekile invoke Standing Order 263 to suspend Standing Order 30 kuze ukuthi induna ito khona kuchubeka icedzele umsebenzi leqhubeka nawo. Labavumelana naloko abathi ayi, labangavumi bathi nay. The ayes have it and the ayes have it. Order bahlonishwa, order. Order bahlonishwa to allow the Minister for Finance to continue. Minister, please continue.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you, Honourable Members, for allowing me to continue. We're almost there, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, these pieces of legislation provide a conducive and modern legislative framework that will enhance the delivery of legal aid services and ultimately promote public confidence in the justice system. Mr. Speaker, in the 2025-26 financial year, government revenues and grants were projected to amount to 29.64 billion, corresponding to 31.5% of GDP. The projected revenue collection displayed a decrease against the initial budget of 29.73 billion. Mr. Speaker, the total government expenditure for 25-26 financial year was budgeted at 32.6 billion. The estimated budget outturn at the end of the year stands at 35.6 billion, which is 37.8% of GDP. This is approximately 3.2% higher than the outturn of 2024-2025 financial year. During the 25-26 financial year, government recorded notable progress in advancing public sector reforms and strengthening human resource management across government. Key achievements included the successful finalization and implementation of the Phase 2 salary adjustments for the 3 security forces, benefiting the Mbutfo Eswatini Defence Force, the Royal Eswatini Police Service, and His Majesty's Correctional Service at a cost of 230 million emalangeni. Following the government's approval, the Joint Negotiations Forum successfully negotiated and signed a collective agreement operationalizing the implementation of recommended scenario 3 of the salary review report, with effect from October 2025 pay dates, backdated to April 2025. Mr. Speaker, the deficit for the 2025-26 financial year is expected to deteriorate to 6.4% of GDP from a budget of 3.1% of GDP. While we've been able to fund part of this through local borrowing, a large part has been financed through external borrowing. Mr. Speaker, total debt stock stood at 34.35 billion emalangeni at the end of November 2024, which is equivalent to 39.6% of GDP. Of the stock, external debt stood at 15.55 billion, which is equivalent to 17.9% of GDP, whilst domestic debt stood at 18.79 billion, which is equivalent to 21.7% of GDP. During this financial year, government through Parliament approved and signed loan agreements, also securing some grants. The loan agreements include the OPEC Fund for International Development, for financing the Mkondungwavuma Water Augmentation Project amounting to $20 million, and also the International Fund for Agriculture Development, IFAD, for financing the Smallholder Agriculture Production Enhancement Project, referred to as SWAPEMP, amounting to $13.57 million. Mr. Speaker, government has contracted a loan for the Strategic Oil Reserve for Eswatini National Petroleum Company, and we are planning to raise a loan for institutional housing for Eswatini National Housing Board. Even though these have been contracted by government, ultimately they'll be paid fully by these entities using their own income streams and balance sheets. And for this reason, they'll be treated as contingent liabilities. These loans are projected to increase government loan book in the 26-27 financial year to 47% debt to GDP. However, without these loans, government debt to GDP will be maintained at the same level of 2025-26 financial year at 43% of GDP, keeping us on a sustainable path. Mr. Speaker, the number of state-owned entities increased from 49 to 50 following the establishment of Eswatini Road Agency under the Ministry of Public Works and Transport, in response to widespread public concern over the poor state of roads infrastructure. While the government recognizes the importance of this intervention, it must be clear that the creation of new entities will not be accompanied by unchecked spending. Performance across several commercial entities has declined, resulting in reduced dividends to government and placing additional strain on the fiscus, a situation that cannot be sustained. Government's currently undertaking a comprehensive salary review of parastatals alongside a stringent performance criteria exercise, identifying key performance indicators for each entity. Mr. Speaker, the government continues to implement public finance management reforms, and government's initiated the development of the implementation of the Integrated Financial Management Information System. Through IFMIS, government's introducing a program-based budgeting, paying much more attention to the National Development Plan, strategy and plan. This reform strengthens the planning and of programs and activities for ministries and departments. The implementation of IFMIS has offered a timely opportunity to intentionally align planning and budgeting through the introduction of program-based planning and budgeting. Program-based planning and budgeting allows us not to only budget more strategically, but also to improve transparency and accountability by linking public spending directly to clearly defined programs and measurable outcomes. The emphasis on the government planning process through clearly identifying the National Development Plan and the Programme of Action related activities has given the government strategic direction during the budgeting process. At this stage, Honourable Speaker, I want to plead with the nation to say during April of this year is when this will be implemented. Like any big system and it's a massive undertaking, and there might be glitches, there might be constraints, there might be problems as we go. Please bear with us, work with us to get through that process so that we can have this really game changer installed in our country. Mr. Speaker, government remains firmly committed to strengthening the tax system as a cornerstone of domestic resource mobilisation and sustainable national development. Our objective is to build a fair, efficient and growth-supporting tax system that broadens the tax base, enhances compliance and reduces over-reliance on volatile external resources. In 2024-2025 financial year, tax collections increased by 1.588 billion emalangeni, representing a growth of 12.2%. The strong performance reflects the effectiveness of tax administration reforms implemented by the Eswatini Revenue Services through a service-based and compliance-driven approach. Government appreciates all eMaswati who honoured their tax obligations and thereby contributed directly to funding public services and development programs. Government continues to encourage those who are not fully compliant to do so, as tax compliance is both a civic responsibility and a foundation for inclusive development. Mr. Speaker, the positive momentum is expected to continue, with tax collections projected to grow 13.2% in the 2025-2026 financial year. However, despite these gains, significant tax compliance gaps remain, estimated at approximately 4 billion emalangeni annually. These gaps, particularly in the VAT within the wholesale and retail sector, represents lost revenues that could otherwise support national priorities. Governments therefore prioritising improved compliance and enforcement and a more equitable and sustainable alternative to increasing tax rates and placing additional pressure on compliant taxpayers. Mr. Speaker, tax and customs reforms have also been advanced through improved trade facilitation. Under the National Trade Facilitation Roadmap, significant progress has been achieved, including the expansion of the Authorised Economic Operator Programme, which rewards high levels of tax and customs compliance. Processing times have been markedly improved, with declaration processing now averaging under 28 minutes. In addition, the government implemented target VAT policy measures to promote equity and reduce the cost of living, including increases in the VAT exemption threshold from 1,000 to 10,000 at the borders of entry into Eswatini, expanding the list of VAT exempt products, and zero rating essential items such as sanitary pads, reusable nappies, and selected medical supplies. These measures reduce the tax burden on households while encouraging accurate declarations and compliance. Turning to tax performance in 2025-26 financial year, government budgeted total revenue and grants of 29.725 billion, with a projected outturn at 29.638 billion. A marginal shortfall of 87 million reflects weaker performance in non-tax revenue, therefore reinforcing the importance of strengthened tax collection as the most reliable source of funding. Over the medium term, total revenue and grants are projected to rise, supported primarily by improvements in domestic tax mobilisation, enhanced compliance, digital tax administration reforms, and the implementation of the fiscalisation plan. Mr. Speaker, corporate tax collections are projected to record a slight shortfall in the 25-26 financial year due to subdued profitability across key sectors. However, over the medium term, corporate tax collections are expected to recover steadily, driven by gradual economic recovery, improved tax administration, and strengthened digital compliance systems. Similarly, personal income tax collections, mainly PAYE, performed slightly above target in the 2025-26 financial year, reflecting improved compliance and moderate wage growth. These collections are projected to grow steadily over the medium term, supported by economic recovery, public service salary review, and continued enforcement of compliance measures. Government has completed key legislative reforms aimed at strengthening the tax system and widening the tax base. These include the Finance Amendment Act of 2025, the Alcohol and Tobacco Levy Amendment Act 2025, the Income Tax Amendment Act 2023. The revision of alcohol and tobacco levies, alongside measures such as the planned collection of fuel tax at border points, forms part of government's broader fiscalisation plan to improve tax compliance and efficiency. Mr. Speaker, in the 2026-27 financial year, government does not intend to increase taxes other than the excise duties that were announced by South Africa, which forms part of the SACU revenue pool. In order to align with South Africa, the proposed increase of excise duties of 3.39% will be applied to all alcohol and tobacco products immediately. Mr. Speaker, looking ahead to the 26-27 financial year and beyond, Eswatini Revenue Services will continue to modernize tax and customs systems, automate processes, and enhance service quality. The focus will remain on digitization, taxpayer education, stakeholder engagement, and enforcement of compliance, ensuring the tax system is fair, efficient, and capable of generating sustainable domestic revenue to support Eswatini's development agenda. Mr. Speaker, I'll now present the budget estimates for the 2026-27 financial year. The government revenue, excluding grants, for 26-27 financial year is projected to reach 31.42 billion emalangeni, which is 30.4% of GDP, an increase of 7.8% on the 25-26 financial year. SACU receipts increase from 10.4 billion to 11.74 billion. However, this budget is only utilizing 11.4 billion, implying that over 300 million is injected into the SACU Stabilization Fund. Non-SACU revenue is expected to increase by approximately 2.36 billion and amounts to 19.05 billion emalangeni, of which 18.09 billion is from taxes and 962 million from non-taxes. Total grants for the 26-27 financial year have decreased to 474 million compared to 585 million in the 2025-26 financial year. Total income taxes are projected to increase from 9.05 billion in 25-26 financial year to 10.06 billion in the 26-27 financial year. This is mainly due to the implementation of the salary review, resulting in an expected increase in personal income taxes of 11.7% to 6.48 billion emalangeni. Mr. Speaker, taxes on goods and services, including SACU receipts, are expected to increase by 17.7% from 7.58 billion emalangeni in the 25-26 financial year to 8.92 billion in the 26-27 financial year. Value-added tax increased by 24.8% from 5.85 billion in 2025 financial year to 7.3 billion in the 26-27 financial year. Fuel tax decreased from 1.43 billion in 25-26 financial year to 1.42 billion in the 26-27 financial year, reflecting a decrease of only 0.25%. Mr. Speaker, total expenditure for the 26-27 financial year is expected to be 36.92 billion emalangeni. This excludes public debt redemption of 5.33 billion. The appropriated recurrent expenditure is set to be 29.14 billion, an increase of 14.7% compared to the 25-26 financial year, mainly due to the salary review. Total budget allocation to capital programs amounts to 7.78 billion emalangeni, an increase of 8.1% from the previous year's allocation. Mr. Speaker, in the 26-27 financial year, public service wage bill is budgeted to reach 12.44 billion emalangeni compared to 10.48 billion in the 25-26 financial year. In this budget, 635.35 million has been set aside for the 80% back pay and 535.28 million for allowances to complete the 25-26 salary review implementation. Mr. Speaker, government will prioritise continued management of appeals arising from the salary review exercise, whilst the impact of the salary review has increased the wage bill from 32 to 33% of government's total expenditure. It is still manageable compared to the 42% we observed from 2018-2019 financial year. This shows that government's efforts to rationalise the wage bill while taking into consideration the welfare of public servants and service delivery efficiencies. Government's target will be to reduce the percentage of wage bill to total expenditure over the medium term to below 30%. The budget deficit for the 26-27 financial year is projected at 4.9% of GDP, which equals 5.02 billion emalangeni. Mr. Speaker, our main challenge in Eswatini remains poverty and unemployment, causing many other problems emanating from these. For this reason, our main focus in crafting this budget remains GDP growth. The idea being that growth in GDP exceeds population growth, as emphasized by His Majesty, resulting in GDP per capita growth. This would mean that Eswatini get better jobs and decent salaries, and that the unemployed find employment. When this happens, people come out of poverty. You'll have noticed that a common thread through this budget speech has been job creation. We need to provide Eswatini with the dignity to be able to find work and provide for their families. Mr. Speaker, by virtue of the responsibility entrusted in me as Minister of Finance, and now present this August House the budget estimates for the 2026-27 financial year. Revenue and grants, 31.9 billion emalangeni. Appropriated recurrent expenditure, 29.14 billion emalangeni. Appropriated capital expenditure, 7.78 billion emalangeni. Total expenditure, 36.92 billion emalangeni. Fiscal deficit, 5.02 billion emalangeni. In conclusion, I'd like to express my sincere appreciation and gratitude to the local and international development partners who have faithfully supported us through all these years. This includes partners who have displayed unwavering support to the nation, both financially and technically. Mr. Speaker, in particular, I'd like to acknowledge the support we received from the US government, the Republic of China, Taiwan, the European Union, Japan International Cooperation Agency, the UN Family, Global Fund, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund, Africa Development Bank, International Fund for Agriculture Development, Export-Import Bank of Taiwan, OPEC Fund for International Development, Badia, Kuwait Fund, the Saudi Fund for Development, Clinton Health Access Initiative, Green Climate Fund, World Health Organization, Africa Legal Support, Medicine Sans Frontiers, World Food Programme, Red Cross, World Vision, and civil society. I'd also like to thank all the private companies, businesses, and individuals in Eswatini who have helped us with donations and contributions for cultural events and functions. Honourable Speaker, I really also want to express our appreciation to His Majesty the King for his amazing leadership and dedication to our nation and for leading us with truth and integrity. So I thank the Prime Minister for leading Cabinet. I want to thank my Cabinet Ministers for always being there and being by our side. I'd like to thank the DPM for all the wonderful hard work that she does. Honourable Speaker, thank you for all the hard work you do, to our MPs that have also, especially the Finance Committee, contributing even towards what we do here today. And but really, again, also thank my wife, who stands by my side faithfully. I'd like to also thank...
Order. There is no clapping of hands in Parliament. You are out of order. It's not allowed.
Honourable Speaker, but really most of all, I want to thank my team at the Ministry of Finance. The last 2 days, we've had teams working 24 round the clock. This morning at almost 4 o'clock, this budget book was ready for presentation, and they did the printing of this budget speech document, for instance. They go the extra mile as the team at the Ministry of Finance. I also want to really thank them and appreciate them for their hard work. Lastly, I'd like to quote a scripture from 1 Corinthians 13, verse 7. Love always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. Thank you all.
Asibonge bahlonishwa, sibonga kakhulu, sithathe lithuba sinibonge bahlonishwa. Ngibonga lokuthi nine bahlonishwa beningatshayi letandla. Letandla betshawa ngilaba labanga khona kulandzela kahle in terms of kusebenta kweParliament ukuthi tandla tishaywa eParliament. So kuhlupha ke nangabe kungendeka chair of chairs khona lo mbonile from among the MPs. Kufuna usinikele list yalamagama. Sitobabona laba labashaya etandla ukuthi baphule ama standing orders abo, which is not allowed. Otherwise, we want to say thank you very much, Bahlonishwa. Siyanibonga kakhulu kuphumelela kwenu, nenduna yembuso siyabongela minister for the budget speech loso uyethulile. Thank you very much for your hard work as well. Of course, sibonga ne collectivity yenu as a cabinet, because it is as a result of working together. Ngeko niqhamuke senithula lokho lenikwethulile. And as always, the hard-working members of Parliament, siyabonga kakhulu Bahlonishwa, for being here, nilalele inkulumo ye budget. Nekusho ke sibonge nema guest ethu kuhlonipha netincingo vele kude nalo lukhalile, and thank you for respecting Parliament. Kubalulekile vele ukuthi na useParliament umeke sure ukuthi ucingo alukhali nalo ukuthi ke ulandzele lenqubo yalokusebenza la Parliament. So siyanibonga kakhulu ngebukhona benu. Sikholelwa nokuthi you will continue to follow iParliament isende ama debates ngalenza bayale speech nilandzele kahle, and also contribute through your MPs ngokuthi ninibona ukuthi ngabe kwendeke kahle na kwendeke kanjani for the benefit of the country. So thank you very much to all of you. Ngicela ukukhumbuta ke Bahlonishwa ikakhulu kade kini ukuthi inkulumo ye budget seyivele iseculatewe, Bahlonishwa abayithathe bayifunze in getting ready for a debate on Monday. So siyacela Bahlonishwa nende njalo so that nasesikhulumisa le speech sendvuna ukhanze ukuthi you are well informed, Bahlonishwa. Nekuthi ke ngicela ukukhumbuta Bahlonishwa ngema order Bahlonishwa. Ngicela ukukhumbuta ngetimemetelo lengitendile nasingena just ukuthi Bahlonishwa bakhumbule nje ngokuthi ikakhulu kade ke ngicale ngama ministries sikhumbule ma reports siyawacela abasase Parliament ngomsombuluko bo minister your PSs and nabo bonke lenisebenta nabo, make sure siyawathola ngesikhathi. Lo Monday sibe debate I budget, but wona akafike lama reports, so that then they get tabled the following sitting. Bese ke sekuba ukukhumbuta Bahlonishwa nasiphuma sendlule ngale endlini yetimbunga sitothatha le pack yako konke lokulabe kwethula minister la namuhla, so that over the weekend nidokhona ukufunza Bahlonishwa niti prepare for Monday sitting. Business House Committee siyacela ukukhumbuta Bahlonishwa ukuthi sibonane after the sitting, kepha ke nasingacala siyele ku straight tent nasiphuma nje sonke sibheke ukuthi siyeni khona kuleli tende lelingale la usitawuthi sithole ama snacks khona, and then network with ama invited guests lalapha eTulu. Nani as ama guest, you have an opportunity to then network with the members of Parliament. So siyacela ukuthi nendeni kanjalo nasiphuma sawuthi sidle ama snacks sibe sibutana sikhulumisana sibonisana sihlafuna le nkulumo ye budget. Siphinde sikhumbuteke Bahlonishwa ama gift enu labangazange bajike office la speaker ukuthi babojika khona bangakahambi eParliament nabomake labahlonishwa lababomake labangakawathathi imihelwane yabo yamsebenzi wasebuhleni, siyacela nabo bende njalo bajike ngase office. Otherwise, thank you very much to all of you. uNkulunkulu anigcine nonke aniphathe ngemusa. Your Excellency, ngicela ukucela kulesikhathi ukuthi uguqise lendlu lehloniphekile ibuye on Monday nga 2:30 eNzambama.
Ngiyabonga mqondisi, ngiyashumisa ukuthi indlu sele iguqa ibuye ngemsombuluko nga 2:30 eNzambama.
Sibonge Your Excellency, ema guest ethu akeme kancane kunyakata. Sibonge Your Excellency, Bahlonishwa sekushukunyisiwe kulendlu ehloniphekile ukuthi lendlu isale iguqa kulesikhathi ize ibuye ngomsombuluko nga-2:30 entsambama. Labavumelana naloko abathi ayi. Labangavumi bathi nay. The ayes have it. The ayes have it and the ayes have it. House stand adjourned. Order, bahlonishwa. Order. Ema guest ake mekunyakata. We all bow. Parliament siyabowa. We stand up and bow. Everybody stand up. Siyasukuma sonke. Bese siyabowa ke bahlonishwa. Thank you.
And there you have it. The finance minister has just tabled the second budget of the 12th parliament, expanding the total expenditure to about 36.9 billion malangeni. We get into what that means. Does it align with His Majesty's speech from the throne, as well as the cabinet's top 5 priorities, with our economist Sanela Spia, who is with us here in studio right after this commercial break.
In Eswatini, energy is more than power. It is the spark that ignites progress, growth, and possibility. At Standard Bank Eswatini, we are financing the future. Through landmark deals like the Lower Magoduza hydropower project, and by backing innovators such as the Somi Group, we are enabling clean power, sustainable growth, and opportunity. But deals alone are not enough. That is why we convene the Eswatini Energy Indaba, a platform where leaders, partners, and clients shape the nation's energy future. This is our energy story, told with the rhythm of our land, the spirit of our people, and the creativity that fuels progress. This is how Standard Bank Eswatini leads as the country's energy financier, from possibility to power to progress.
See you later. All right, welcome back to our post-budget coverage. We have just said that the finance minister has just tabled the third budget of the 12th parliament, expanding total expenditure to about 36.9 billion emalangeni, and that is up from roughly 32.6 billion emalangeni last year. The fiscal deficit still sitting at above 5 billion emalangeni. It is indeed a budget that is framed as a shift from stability to acceleration, as per the finance minister's words, and one that the minister explicitly anchored in the national vision that is outlined in His Majesty's speech from the throne and the top 5 priorities that have been adopted by Cabinet. We cross over now to Parliament. We have seen that the House has been adjourned, so we will be getting a few of their reactions in Parliament.
Njengoba ke masonto lamahle sesiphume khona ekhathe eParliament lapho indvuna yelitiko letemafa umhlonishwa Neil Rackenback icetha kwetfula
nangivuso kuqala
Angathi kumuzi ke lapho mne bengitolungisa bosithela ngala.
All right, welcome back as they continue to get ready on the ground there. Again, the Finance Minister has just tabled the third budget of the 12th Parliament, expanding total expenditure to about 36.9 billion emalangeni. That is up from roughly 32.6 billion emalangeni. Now, this is a budget that is framed as a shift from stability to acceleration, and one that the minister explicitly anchored in the national vision that has been outlined by His Majesty King Eswatini III speech from the throne when he opened Parliament, as well as the top 5 priorities that were adopted by the cabinet this week, really. And at the heart of this budget, what I liked was a powerful philosophical frame, Mr. Sbia. The minister described this year's fiscal plan as being built on agape love. And he did say, and I quote, love for the child in a rural classroom, love for the unemployed that are seeking opportunity, love for the farmer that is battling climate shocks, love for the worker who rises before dawn, and love for the elderly citizen who depends on dignity, and love for future generations who will inherit the consequences of today's fiscal decisions. Suddenly, let us frame everything that we have just listened to. Of course, we have heard the total expenditure, and I suppose the first question and the most important question is, does this budget align with the speech from the throne as well as the Cabinet's top 5 national priorities?
Thank you, Mr. Nxumalo. So, yeah, it's quite a figure. But in terms of alignment, yes, it does align. I think I liked the fact that we are now moving into implementation of the energy plans, because if you remember, in quite the number of the past budget speeches, we've been thinking around getting the framework ready to ensure that we can improve independent power generation and then also go into power generation. So we do welcome them. The efforts to ensure that we can get independent energy producers into the grid, and then also going green in terms of solar power and continuing with the hydropower stations there. So I think for me that was a highlight in terms of aligning with the King's vision and command therein. And then when you look into the other sectors, I mean, we saw ICT getting a boost of around 100 million there on addition budget. Now that's towards, transforming the economy and ensuring that we get aligned with the digital revolution. Food sovereignty, if you look at, the food production that is being supported through eWaid, and also the when you look at the independent farmers that are being introduced into the grid. So now that's the beauty of it.
All right, we'll come back to this conversation as we continue to just understand all the numbers with our economists. But for now, let's cross back over to Parliament with our 2 reporters, Sondo and Temikos.
Maswati lamahle njengoba indvuna ilitiko letemafa umhlonishwa Neil Rackenberg seyiwetfulile emaphakelo emnyaka mali wa 2026-2027. Indvuna ke yetfule ibudget ya 36 billion emalangeni, nasiyibuka emnyakeni mali lofile noma ke wa 2025-2026 le budget ikhombe kukhula nga 5 billion emalangeni. Indvuna ke ivetile ukuthi le budget lena siqubulo sayo vele sikhombisa ngalokusobala agape love. Lokusho ukuthi ke le budget lena isiyasuka nje ekubhudzeni seyivele ukuthi emaswati akhona ukuthi ya createlwe ematfuba emsebenzi ngendlela lephathekako, indlela letawutsinza wona emaswati ekhaya. Njengoba ke emaswati lamahle seniva labo lebe bangekhathi lokufaka ekhathi babuhlonishwa sebaphumile njengoba indvuna seyicedzile kwetfula wona emaphakelo. Sesitawuhamba ke siyohlola kuye mavimbela ukuthi engabe yena sebobani labatfolile njengoba kubhekeke ukuthi sikhona ukukhulumisana nato tindvuna tembuso ikakhulu kuva ukuthi engabe vele bayatfokota yini ngawo emaphakelo labawatfolile. Sawuphinze futhi nasinethuba lelihle sikhona ukukhulumisana ikakhulu nabo baphathi betinkampani njengoba ngibekise nje tinkampani lefaka ekhathi bo eWaid tiniketwe umsebenzi lomkhulu kakhulu wekuthi tente imisebenzi letawu creator ema opportunities noma ke emathuba ekucasha sona sive semaswati. Asesiye kuye mavimbela siyomuva ukuthi yena engabe sohambe kanganani kutfola labo langakhona ukukhulumisana nabo.
Right, Sondomlangeni, that's just really wrapping up what she heard from the finance minister's remarks, as well as some of the projects that have been mandated to the different parastatals, as well as government entities that have a lot of work in creating employment. And the minister did say the key word in his budget has been employment, 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 because that will bring us closer to achieving what we want to achieve in terms of our gross domestic product. But let's look at the envelope. Now, you did say that it's quite huge. It's quite seismic, right? And I want us to look at the growth posture that seems to be strengthening, right? From his words, the minister rising from about 32.6 to roughly 36.9. Does that signal real acceleration for you?
In my view, yes, it does signal a real acceleration. But what would be more, or what would require a more of an analysis is where is this acceleration coming from, right? It would seem from what the minister is presenting, it is coming through a burgeoning wage bill. I mean, we saw and we expected this with the salary review last year that it required around 2 billion. And we talked about this earlier on in the program.
But there was skepticism around that, remarks that you made.
Yeah,
a lot of people question that, and yet it has happened. But yeah, keep going.
So we did expect that, but yeah, and that's where we would be a bit concerned. But if we can push for growth as well, because I think what the budget tries to balance is your capital expenditure growing to 7.78 billion, to sit around 21% of this budget, according to my calculations of that. So what that then signals is we are a nation that's trying to balance capital accumulation together with an increasing wage bill, and we are hopeful and cognizant of the fact that the ministry is introducing quite a lot of initiatives to curb on the public sector wage bill. And once we can get to a point where we are pushing more on capital expansion, private sector-led investment, then I do believe we should be on a relatively good footing when we can get it below that 30% level, which the minister did allude to.
Yeah, I want us to move along and look at the deficit now, because you allude to that with a bit of worry, and I want you to articulate it because I can read it from your face right now. And we're just staying with the macro picture, really, and talking sustainability, if you will. Even with the expansion, right, that the finance minister has clearly articulated, the deficit remains above 5 billion. Emalangeni, and again, you make that face. Is this still a comfortable range for an economy our size?
I think for me, the face is not on the number. Well, it is on the number, in the sense that before what we've been chasing was a 40% target. But now we've gotten to a point where we are quite comfortable with being above that 40% target. I think the minister projects 47% of GDP. When you then take out those loans that are going to be run through the ENPC and the Housing Board, comes down right about to 43%. And I think my range would have been something between 35 to 40 at most. But we do hope that it should start stabilizing. What we should be talking about right now is debt stabilizing at a certain level, just like we've seen with South Africa trying to stabilize the debt at a certain level.
We'll come back to that, and we will look at the constraints because, you are really passionate about that one. Let's cross over back to Parliament. It looks like they are ready to give us some insights from the attendees there.
Sibonga kakhulu mbukeli sibonga kakhulu e-studio sesibuya ngekhona ngekhathi endlini eParliament lapho khona indvuna yeTemafa neRackenback seyivele seyiqoqotile i-budget speech noma ke ngemaphakelo lawo eminyaka imali wa 2026-2027 senginaye ke Auditor General lokungena ke lobuke onke lamabhuku awulwendo ukuthi ngabe vele imali noma le mali isebenziswa ngendlela lefanele nemkholo sikuvusele sikubukele Eswatini TV ingabe vele emkholo Minister ukhulume ngendzaba ye collaboration ku office la ka AG ngemaphoyisa to ensure ukuthi imali isetshenziswa ngendlela lengiyo. Ingabe mkholo nisaqala lo mnyaka nenda njani ukuze ukuthi to ensure ukuthi lokushiwo indvuna kwendeke.
Siyabonga Mtsatseli, sibonga abalaleli, sibonga nalithuba nathi sibe khona kwi-budget minister lebekatse vele ijulile impela ibandi kavatongo tihlangothi zonke sitikhavarishile indvuna nenhlangothi leti tekulusa timali lehovisi lithunyiwe kulusa timali telive timali setilusile sementa kwato tonke tinhlangothi tekutfutfuka tesima-services netinsita fake bantu sithi bukile imali sebenze njani and ke vele indzaba yenkohlakalo indzaba lengokhona kuyilwa wedvana siyatsinga vele impela bambisane nema anti corruption nawe emaphoyisa vele sinawo lo kusebenzisana sifuna ukuqinisa njengoba uhulumende asisekele ukuthi vele sibambisane ekusebenzeni ukulwa nenkohlakalo ngoba le nkohlakalo isibisele emuva kakhulu timali eveni tiba khona bese tiyalahleka nabethi imali kasebenzisa kahle live impela lingathuthuka libe phambili kula lokho lelikiko nyalo sitawuqhubeka silovisi vele silwe nayo inkohlakalo siya-audita wonke imali yahulumende noma ngimalini sivele sikhona silusela imali yahulumende silovisi siphinde futhi siluse nemali tesifundza tekontinenti ngishemeni nje waka-AU so-audita vele imali telive liswalangwane tiyeleka ka-African Union vele naka-Afropac naka-SADC silusile sikuthola imali tiyakhona zat-audita nakasakho sikhona siya-audita sivele sithunywe ngengwenyama ukuthi siluse imali tesive siyabonga kakhulu thuba nje minister ithula ibudget yakhe impela yinhle awusekuyisa yakhe ithi vele ukuthi soyithuliwe sale sayisoyilusa sicela sive sisibambise salusa leti imali information disiphe basihlebe lapho khona thufuta ngakhona sitoyibamba kahle kulahla kwetimali siyabonga msakade.
Sibonga kakhulu AG loyo ke mbukeli bekunguye ke Auditor General Timothy Matsebula asitshela kafishane ngayo ke indzaba yayo ukuthi batayilusa kanjani indzaba ye corruption indzaba lenkulu lebeyisolo ikhudwa nasesibayeni yafike yakhudwa kepha nyalo angisasethi insambo ngitimbikise kuye ke Sondo Mlangeni umlingani wayo.
Njengoba ke mbukeli solo sikulethela wona ema-interviews eceleni kwami senginendvuna ilitiko letempilo umhlonishwa Mduduzi Mathebula ilitiko lendvuna ke lithole imali lenganga 3.24 billion emalangeni sikuvusele indvuna siphindze sive ukuthi mhlawumbe nelitiko letempilo nibuka ukuthi nitawukhona yini vele kusebenta ngale mali lene ukuthi ngimaphi ama-priorities enu vele nilitiko.
Kubonga kuthola lithuba umuntu angacala ngekubongela yona indvuna yetemafa lethule inkulumo lenhle kakhulu yemaphakelo siyambongela nje kakhulu minister sibongele ke nahulumende aphelele silitiko letempilo nathi siyasibongela ukuthi bekungaba khona lesiphakelwa kona liciniso lithi yincane le mali kuna letizimo kephana ke kutawusichuba bese ngete sathola konke ngoba siyathi ukuthi there are competing priorities ahulumende nalamanye ematiko akhona kephana ke siyakubonga lesiphakelwe kona kutasenda ukuthi sigijime nathi silitiko letempilo on top of I priority list yethu nito yona indzaba yema drugs lokuhle kwengiloko ukuthi kuyabonakala indlela leyempilo kuyoyicetha njengalo sitawuqala iEswatini medical agency kusho khona ukuthi siyasebenta kucetha letinkinga tema drugs evele itasisita ke le mali kuyicala lesethemba ukuthi emavikini langendlule ku2 ngidabe ngimemedela iboard letawuthatha over umsebenzi we-Central Medical Stores icashe lo CEO icashe nadotonke tisebenzi itawukhona kusile budget isale iya kule parastatal lensha le miyoni itawubuka temithi siyethemba ukuthi emaswati atakuthola kuphumula emzabeni temithi kuphele lokusinamhla kuyashoda kusasa kukhona kusasa kuyashoda kusasa kukhona kungaba kubonga nje nenkulumo lenkulu yengwenyama lesikhuthatako nalesikhomba indlela ukuthi asisubathe kuleti indzaba leti. Sibonge nama-suppliers nawo asukumile ayashaya, lamanye asacalile ayadeliver, kutshengisa ukuthi siyabambisana sisonke. Siyethemba naletinye tinhlelo titawulandzela after le ma-drugs, kepha nje kwanyalo ngithi angiflege lena le-priority number 1.
Siyabonga Ndvuna Yenkosi, siyabonga kakhulu. Asesive Mavimbela ukuthi wena ngabe kukhambela njani ngalapho.
Mbukeli-ke sibonge sesiphinze-ke inyalo-ke sesinayo indvuna yaka-Labour and Social Security. Laba sibukele-ke kahle ukuthi ngabe tindzaba tetisebenzi ngileti hamba kahle yindvele, malungelo enu aphatheke kahle yindvele, asetandleni leti kahle-ke nayo indvuna phila Buthelezi. Ndvuna Yenkosi seyivile indvuna langekhathi i-unpacka i-budget. Ingabe vele how does it speak to umsebenzi wakho noma wenu as litiko laka-Labour?
Siyabonga umbuto mfana Nkosi. Sikhuthalo nalwandle. Njengoba lisinikile umkhombandlela evikini leliphelile. Kwekuthi live alibhekephi. Na silalela ke indvuna yetemafa emaphakelo lewathulile aligned to leyo indlela lesinikwe ingwenyama. Silitiko laka-Labour siyathokoza. Sishaya emafahlawane emaphakelweni lekethuliwe ukuthi siwatholile langethulo kwa-800 million. Njengoba wathi chunk lenkulu kuleyo imali uhulumende laniketa ngawo umfundzate bantwana beMaswati. Kube nema-adjustments labekhona kusasetshenzwa ngekukhula kwabo-inflation naloko kukhuliswa ama-allowances, ku-introduce ama-book allowance, nema-tuitions boyuneswa bafake ticelo babusisela ukuthi sale sibhadala i-tuition leseyithe caca batokhona kuphila. Kusinika lithemba ukuthi le budget lesiphakele yona ibonakala ikucaterishele lokho ukuthi sikhona ukuchubeka sidelive kuleyo mandate bantwana beMaswati bangasokoli njengoba litiko belizama cansi nawe sekathe nje wagcina kuva ukuthi bantwana batelekile ngetindzaba tema-allowances. Uhulumende wayengwenyama uyasibambisa kakhulu kuloko kulele sesinikwe wona sitawuvele sikubambe ngato tota imbili sithi ngikwe sidelive imandate lesinikwe yona kungasiyo ama-scholarships kuphela kunetindzaba tetisebenzi i-responsibility yethu kwenta ima-inspections kuhlanganisa lapho sebangasaboni ngasolinye abaqashi netisebenzi naloka sinalo lithemba ukuthi kulo lokuncane lesihleshulelwe kona sitawukhona ukuchubeka sisebende sivusayo ingwenyama sijabule ngemandate lekulo litiko letisebenzi nenhlala kahle yethu.
Ndvuna Yenkosi sibonge kakhulu sikhathi sakho. Mbukeli kube ungiyo yona indvuna yaka-Labour and Social Security ishaya nje kafishane ngayo indzaba yokuthi lamaphakelo lawo atawukhona ukuthi asite lokuthi ikhone ukuthi imikise lusito khona eziveni ngankwe, kepha nyalo angiphindze-ke ngithathe tindzaba ngitibhikise kuye-ke Sonto Mlangeni umlingani wami.
Njengoba solo siqhubeka nekukhulumisana nato indvuna tembuso sesinendvuna yelitiko letekuvakasha nendzaba temvelo umhlonishwa Jane Simelane. Asikuvusele indvuna Yenkosi siphindze sive ukuthi nilitiko laka-tourism siyeva ukuthi kunemsebenzi lomkhulu we-ICC lotawuvulwa kulomnyaka. Le budget ingabe itawukhona yini vele minister kunichupha?
Sithandza nje kubonga ngale budget lese yetfulwe ngiyo indvuna yetemafa. Le budget letfulwa ngiyo indvuna yetemafa ihambisana ngco nenkulumo yengwenyama ngoba inkulumo yengwenyama yagcizelela kiko lokuthi kusetshenzwe tintfo te-ICC kusetshenzwe tintfo taka-environment loko lokubukene na-tourism kusetshenzwe nemigwaco. Sivile-ke inkulumo yayo yebudget itsinze ngqo lokwashiwo silo. Lengingakusho ngiloko ukuthi vele nawuphakela usebenzisa ingcwembe uyakha ufake uphinze awufaki kanye kwenele. So ke singeMaswati siyahle ukuthi le ngcwembe lese ikuphakele nyalo kutawuhamba lichi tawuphinze futhi ingcwembe ibuye itophakela. Siyajabula nje kakhulu singeke sikhale semukela lesikutfolako singeMaswati sifundzisekile. Nekusho ke lokho ukuthi sisayisebenta indzaba yaleli hotela vele laba labato sebenza lihotela sebakhona baseveni baqalile bayaqhubeka nabo bayasebenza noma singakapheli isakhiwo sisebenza hand in hand nabo line by line sendele lokuthi lithi naliphela kukhanzakale ukuthi umsebenzi ngakithi sowuhambile nawo soya ngasemaqopheleni ekuphelele.
Siyabonga kakhulu Ndvuna Imbuso sikhona sithembe ukuthi indawo khona kusebenza asesihlole Mavimbela mshiya lo wa kuthi ngabe yena uchuba kanjani.
Siphinde sibonge ke mbukeli ukuthi sesiphinde sesibuyile nyalo ke sesithole yona ke indvuna yaka public service lenyona ke lebuke esingathi ngi-HR 47 tembuso nduna yenkosi na indvuna seyikhulumile ngabe litiko liyathokoda yini ngaloko lelikutholile.
Ubocala ngokuthi principal HR ungathi nje HR cha kungaba kuveta kuthokoda silitiko le public service ekutheni nathi nakuthula ibudget sibe khona ngilabanye lokubonakala ukuthi bangayithola i-public service i-budget yayo for 2025-2026 financial year bekhuluma nga 10.4 billion kulo 2026-2027 sikhuluma nga 12.4 lokusho ukuthi yenyuke nga 2 billion umuntu angatibuta ke ukuthi yenyuka kangaka yini utakhumbula ukuthi sasusa umsebenzi lomuhle lo thokotisa tisebenta hulumende nelive lonke jikelele nemnotho uyathokoda wesa review so isa review ibe ne impact lecishe ithi 2 billion lokho ke kwenta ukuthi tisebenta tembuso tibe nelithemba dijabule ukuthi nembalo singihulumende wenkonyama bese ngaqali emanga nasithi utaba nale full implementation ngalo July 2026 lokusho ukuthi nje sekutheleta inyanganyana sesta sesiyayifaka le mali sikhombe kwethembeka singihulumende ngoba siyakholela ukuthi lokuyoletha kuthula lokuyoletha kuthembana lokuyoletha i-environment lekahle le-stable lapho khona awusebenza excel ema civil servants i-environment letaba conducive i-environment letatibona tidzingo tabo ukuthi nawo bama civil servants akube khona labakutholayo kule budget lesitholile ke futhi kukhona imali lesitawusala nayo lisitawukhona kuvala ama-critical positions kahulumende njengoba sathi ukuthi ematiko cishe onke ayakhala kulandzela lokhu kwake kwaba ne-freeze ku-filishon kwema-vacancies but ke nyalo uhulumende khona lasinike kona sitawukhona kuvala leto tikhala siphindze sikhone kuchuba ema-programs latawenda ukuthi uhulumende a-excel kube ne-service delivery letawujabulisa service emaswati ngiloko lengathi anguvete sikhuhle libayethe kuloko losekwentekele kithi siyi-public service sitawuphuma ngemandla sithi inkwesi igijime siyathembisa eveni ukuthi i-excellence itawuchubeka njengoba sitawutransforma ngisho nabo empa kube i-center of excellence lokuyowenta ukuthi uhulumende nembala ashayine wonke uhulumende abonakala sebenza siyabonga
kokugcina nje ndvuna ngabe indzaba yema-appeals ngoba vele kuyavama lokuthi bese sakaba khona ngabe vele ikhona yini ibudget yawo kunyaka
indzaba yema-appeals itawuqala kukhulunyiswa uma sesendele full implementation vele ke atawukhulunyiswa ahlale akhona kepha-ke siyethemba njengoba lo consultant wende umsebenzi ocishe lomuhle kakhulu siyethemba ukuthi atabe mancane kakhulu sitawukhona nawo kubona ukuthi siwahenglisha kanjani.
Ndvuna yenkosi siyabonga kakhulu isikhathi sakho sowuvile ke mbukeli ukuthi ti-7 tembuso uhulumende uthi utibophelele ukuthi noma kanjani lokhu lakwethembisa kulomnyaka ti-7 tembuso tiyakuthola asengibizele inzambo ngale kusondo omlangeni umlingani wami.
Maswati lamahle sesinalo lunga lephalamende lenkundla yasemafutheni umhlonishwa Sabelo wakamthetho lophindze futhi abe kulo libandla lelibuke kusebenta kwelitiko letemafa mhlonishwa sikuvusele sikwemukele siphindze sive nje ukuthi na ibudget indvuna seyetfulile engabe niyibuka injani ikakhulu itawuhlangabetana yini naletidzingo temaswati.
Angibonga ukuthola lelithuba ngivusele kiso sonke sive samaswati le budget le yalonyaka ibudget lenhle kakhulu nakuhle ke akusho ukuthi bese kuba kuhle konke kuba khona la ukhanza ukuthi khona nawe utawukhala khona ukuthi awulana ube kumana kwenteka ukuthi sathi nje sakhuza libayethe sibonga enkuyingwenyama imvulo yemhlaba emsebenzi lokwendekako eParliament sibonga nako konke lokwendekako nje nyalo uhulumende tibophelele ukuthi ufuna ukuthi kuphehleke gas lo enough eveni lokho nathi ngesikufisile keja kakhulu sifise kungathi lo gas bongaphehlwa ngilama besemagasini labatha ukukhona ukuthi bave ukukhala kwesive ngoba ama company wona vele atosilekelela sisive keja icompany ifuna iprofit lapho ukhanza ukuthi asikhoni kahle hleno amaswati akhala ulalela ukuthi bathini ngekuthi uthi lona lokuthengiselako yena ufuna lo mina nje ndawugcizelela kakhulu ukuthi kube kungenteka vele befuna ukuthi siyoboleka imali kwala khaya siphehle gas wemalahle sinenqumbe emalahle kupheka uhambise emalahle kwayise emaveni akusiko lokunganani kanti lokhu akube kwethu le maveni bathatha lamalahle ethu baphehle gas ngawo keja ngalathi basitshela ngeclimate change ufuna enye into sibuke ukuthi kuyasebenzela yini sisive ngoba phela ufuna singene etafuleni sicabanga ukuthi thina sibhekephi sifise ini ngoba likusasa lethu ngilokuthi lokwethu singapheka ukuhambisa ukudlaphatisa ngibuye ngibonge ukuthi ke awu Minister of Finance cha siyabonga ufakele imali ukuthi naba la imali ethi embuso eleyasala batayithola lo nyaka vele sibonga kona kuthembeka kepha nje linyevale ngehlala ngabe khona imali yabogogo othi ayikakhulu njani but sisatayikhuluma naye minister esingaleke sesibheka sithibisi sakhe imali yabogogo vele ibhlungu ufuna ukuthi azame minister ukuthi angathi ayithola kuphi kodwa iyafuneka le mali yabogogo ngoba phela nabogogo lokhu kuhlonga ukukhupha ugesi batawukhupha abogesi nabogogo phinze nasetitolo kudla kuyabakhuphukela bogogo lokho vele kufuna sibone ukuthi sizayisebenza siyithini endzaba le ukuthi thine iAgape Love nangabe siyisebenza ngeliqiniso nawo bogogo asibafaka ukuthi nawo bathole bogogo ungabe sekuthiwa sisebenza embuso kuphela
Siyabonga kakhulu kuye umhlonishwa wenkundla yasemafutheni umhlonishwa Sabelo wakamthetho cha asesiye kuye Mavimbela siyombona ukuthi yena ngabe kumhambela kanjani
Sibonge ke sonto mlangeni ngalapho ngalana sesiphinde sesitholeke yona ke indvuna yaka housing and urban development umhlonishwa Apollo Maphalala ekungiyona ke ibuke tindzaba temadolobha ke kanye nekuthuthukiswa kwawo ndvuna yenkosi engakumoshela isikhathi ingabe vele ndvuna ingathini ireaction yalolitiko ku namaphakelo lasathulwe ngiyo indvuna yaka finance indzaba lenye la itsinzile indzaba yaka housing board ukuthi kutawufakwa imali kuze ukuthi kwakhiwe tindlu 37 tembuso
Siyabonga mfana Nkosi sivusele nasesiveni kwekucala singayibongela indvuna yelitiko letemafa isebenta umsebenzi lomkhulu nakufuna ukuthi wabe emafa elive noma wabe ema resources elive wabe la tinhlangothi letehlukene ngumsebenzi lolukhulu kakhulu manje ke siyayibongela indvuna kuba he is really attempted lokho ukuthi akunakwe tindzaba tekuthi umnotho awukhule si-investe ku-growth noma sifake sihlanyele imali ekukhuleni kwemnotho kwesibili siphinde sihlanyele imali etintweni letine-social impact ngaba ngemigwaco ngaba ngema-social security schemes netintfo letinye letinjalo letiviwa sive ngqo bese kwesithathu siphinde siyifake imali kuma-capital projects induna yetemafa ikuzamile ukubhalansisa leto ntfo leto siyati ukuthi ngeke senele sonke singematiko ngoba vele ema-resources elive akafiki lapho singathi nje sitakwenda konke lesikufunayo but nje-ke umuntu angaphinde abuye lapha kule ukuthi ngalapha-ke kuleli tiko lakisi laka-housing and urban development lokukhulu kakhulu kube ngiloko ukuthi kunemali le proposal wako letaba loan ukuthi sichubeke nekwakhela ti-70 tembuso nekwakha amahhovisi ahulumende lesiyibita institutional housing program phase 2 ngoba phase 1 wendiwa bekwakhela bofire amaphoyisa bonesi nalamanye ne-correctional service but nyalo sekutaba broader than that so siyakubonga nalokuthi kuconsider lokho but silungisa ke nenzaba lenkulu ye-integrated infrastructure plan le-nationwide letawuhambisana nekuhleleka kwelive lonke nje spatially so naloko sikholwa ukuthi kusachubeka iminyaka kugcine kungene ku-budget ngoba live ufuna lihlele mbiseke kahle otherwise nyalo si-waste space ngalokubeka tintfo tibe littered all over the place
Sibonga kakhulu ndvuna ngiyo indzaba sothi vele ke mbukeli itindlu 37 tembuso titawakhiwa ikhona ibudget angisathe nizama ukuthi mixe kusonto mlangeni lo sovele emile nayo indvuna ka finance
Well, we are still having a conversation with different cabinet ministers, and right now we have the Minister of Finance, Honorable Neil Reckenbeck. I mean, the man of the moment. Honorable Minister, how are you? And we want to find out that the budget that you just tabled, it looks like we have budgeted for so much while we have little money on our hands. How is that going to play out for us as a country?
Well, first of all, you're right. So the budget has grown more than ever. It's grown with more than 4 billion emalangeni. About 4.5 billion emalangeni is the growth. And so what we must understand, first of all, we do have an increase of 2.3 billion emalangeni from tax this year. So a lot of that is already absorbed by the tax. We're getting more cycle receipts this year than before, even though we'll use a stabilization fund, keeping it more or less similar. But the bottom line is, yes, we go to the debt market. So because what we manage our debt to GDP ratio, meaning that because our GDP is growing quite aggressive now, 5%, it means that we can also loan more. So not only do we have money from tax, but we can also loan a bit more because our GDP is growing, maintaining our debt to GDP ratio if you take out contingent liabilities. And so from that perspective, I believe that we are, as the years go by, because our GDP keeps on growing, it'll continue on an increased path. We've taken the volatility out of SACO, meaning that we now it's no longer this up and down that we come from. We're now on a stable upward trend, is what I believe we'll be able to continue with. But yes, we do take on more debt. So we've lined up the debt, so we know exactly where we're going to get the debt from. That's why we call it the fully financed budget, because we know where the finance is going to come from. We're not planning on expenditure without knowing where the debt's going to come from. We've got a plan for that and a strategy for that, and we believe that it can be a good year.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for your time. There was the Minister of Finance, Honorable Neil Reckenbeck. Asichazela nje ukuthi kubukeka ngazuthi lamaphakelo ethu le mali lesiyibudgetele yinengi kakhulu kunale mali lekhona etandleni tethu. So sichazele ke umhlonishwa ukuthi cha live la Kangwane in terms of kuboleka lime kahle kakhulu futhi litawukhona nekuboleka. Ngingadi ukuthi ingabe Mavimbela yena umenja angimikise inthambo kuwe Mavimbela.
Mbukeli sesiphindze sesibuyile khona ngalapha eParliament noko sesibuya ke sesiyagoqoda sesiwatfolile ama reactions sesivile ukuthi bathini bathi thini imvulo tembuso letehlukene ngayo indzaba yemaphakelo imvulo tibonakala kungazuthi tiyatfokoda ngaloko lokutholakele ku emaphakelo sesiyava ke mhlazane seyingena ekhathe eParliament yo debate angiyo amalungu eParliament kuva lokuthi ngabe vele wona amalungu eParliament seka onke endlini ayatfokoda yini ngayo yona lenzaba yemaphakelo la lethwe nguyona indvuna yawatheblisha khona endlini angisengqoqoda nje nginaye umlingani wami Sonto Mlangeni naye lebekakhuluma nayo indvuna yaka finance come close indvuna seyigoqotele ukuthi inyalo seyifila injani kulandzela ukuthi sekwethulile amaphakelo
indvuna Mavimbela ithi ihappy kakhulu ithi ijabulile ithi asingakhathateki ukuthi ibudget yethu isetulu kanti imali ayikho etandleni tethu but more than anything ngiloko ukuthi lokubalekile ukuthi le budget nesikhuluma yeAgape Love akube ibudget vele leta ukhona kuthinza liswati ngalinye kusukela ekwakhene amathuba emisebenzi nekokuthi nje umnotfo welive ukhona kusimama Mavimbela uvile nawe indzaba yekugenerate i-energy kwekuthi live noma hulumende unetinhlelo letinkulu ukuthi live ligcine selikhona kwekuthi tindzaba tagesi kube tindzaba mhlawumbe le emaswati lakhona kokutfola la even laseswatini sinciphise i-over reliance ngephandle kwelive
tindzaba tagesi ngiletinye letimcoka kakhulu letena bosomabhizinisi futhi bafune ukuthi khona even kepha ke kulesikhathi sanyalo njengoba sishito ukuthi sesigoqotile sesibisela tona tonke tindzambo etule studio eMbabane ncuma lo nato ndzambo kuwe.
Well, thank you there to our two field reporters in Tembingosi, Mavimbela and Sondo Mlangeni, who have just spoken to some of the portfolio ministers. And they have given us their insights as well as their reactions to Finance Minister's budget speech. We will come back from the break and we will drill into the numbers and just how our economist looks at this trajectory and how it maps out going forward, just shortly after the commercial break.
the viewers of Eswatini TV in the kingdom and beyond. Eswatini TV is regulated by the Eswatini Communications Commission through the Broadcasting Code and Broadcasting Guidelines. Under these instruments, the station commits to broadcasting information and news that have been fact-checked, programs and content in respectful language with no elements of hate speech, violence or sexual activity. If